In any case, ladies and gentlemen, we got a blast off meme. Glazing Holland, first 15 minutes of the stream now. Stream, wow. I mean, look, I like impressive feats of athleticism as much as the next guy. So, of course, as a part of that, I'm going to glaze people who deserve it. And I think Holland certainly deserves it. So, first time chat, was genuinely wondering how you feel as a person about mortality. I don't think about it. I don't think about it at all. I got your blast off meme. Don't worry. I got your blast off meme. So, we'll get into all of that and more in a second. But yeah, what else to say? Other than not much is going on in my life, like I said. We got the Abdul versus Haley debate that we're going to be obviously looking at. I covered it live last night while eating. And we got the Plattner fallout continued. Waiting for statement. The Kirk trials going on. U.S. strikes Iran. Is MOU dead? NATO summit continues. Is Mitch McConnell alive? And then an Elijah Manley interview. Get in now. Some interesting comments about Mitch McConnell. Yeah, Mitch McConnell, you mean my boyfriend? Yeah, that's right. It's time to come out and say the truth. Yeah, I was sexting him last night. Like I was yeah. I can't wait to go to DC and see him. So we can have gay sex or as we like to call it, sex. Yeah, we're dating. That's why his wife flew to China. Yeah. I got it, UB. Stop spamming. Okay. I got it. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Go ahead, Mitch. Deny the relationship if you can. Oh, really? You got a problem? Deny it. He can't. He's shy. Okay. Yeah, Mitch McConnell, very much alive. Let me tell you, okay, alive, sexy. And also, yeah, I tweeted it yesterday. Just got off the phone with Mitch McConnell. We had phone sex, okay? Yeah, a lot of people are talking to Mitch. I'm one of those people. It's cool. He told me it's okay. It's okay to reveal to the world that we're dating. How did he sound? Was he into it? Yeah. No, he genuinely curious. Why would they lie about him being alive? Because every state has a different set of rules, but from what I understand, Kentucky needs to have a special election if he's dead. Like if the senator is incapacitated, then Kentucky has to potentially put together a new special election. And there is some suspicion, not from me, but from others, that if there was a special election that takes place, that Thomas Massie could possibly run. And they're worried about that. They're worried about him running. Now, of course, our boy, our guy, Charles Booker, right? Charles Booker's running for this seat. So no matter what happens, it's probably better that Thomas Massie doesn't, end up running. I mean, it could be the coolest set of circumstances, obviously, would be for Charles Booker to win. So Thomas Massie would only be a senator for 4 months, lol. Yes. I know, but it would be nice to have Thomas Massie for 4 months as a senator from Kentucky. Did Mitch have any surprising kinks? This is very important info. Yeah, he likes to get his toes sucked. Um, that's what he likes. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, so yeah, we had sex. We had phone sex, and we're gonna have sex, gay sex, also known as sex. And go ahead, deny it. Go ahead, Mitch, deny it. The people deserve to know that we've had a gay relationship. You can't deny it, and that's why your wife escaped to China, because she didn't want to deal with the fallout. So yeah. Um just pointing that out, it's one of those things that you can't really, like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? You can't really deny it. Yeah. No shot Mitch could bag you, shaking my head. I love powerful men. That's what it is. Anyway, so yeah, go ahead, Mitch. Condemn me if you can. Yeah. So we'll get to all of that and more. I already blasted off. That's one of the many different stories that we are going to be talking about today. Obviously, there's also an ICE shooting that took place in Texas. We'll be covering that. Hopefully today won't be Grand Platinum heavy, as opposed to every other day that has been unbelievably Grand Platinum heavy. I know it's this community's like least favorite subject to discuss for the past couple of months. I saw someone make a very funny statement. Obviously, I disavow, but I saw someone be like, uh, issuing a issuing a death threat against Mitch McConnell, so they have to prove that he's alive for me to be arrested by the Secret Service. That was a funny take that I saw on the internet on the issue. People are looking for very increasingly creative ways to get proof of life out of the Mitch McConnell camp, it seems. So, everyone's got their own methods. Everyone's got their own methods. Mine is coming out as Mitch McConnell being my sugar daddy. Yeah. Mitch McConnell is my sugar daddy. We've been in a relationship for quite a while, and if he wants to deny it, then he has to come out and say it himself. Do not believe any of the other people, because it was a private relationship between me and the 85-year-old man from Kentucky, and it's up to him to deny. After Pride Month, yes, we think those sorts of things are better kept to ourselves. We wanted to make sure that we waited. We wanted to make sure that we waited until after Pride Month, because we didn't want to take away from Pride Month festivities. You know what I mean? Once again, go ahead, disavow it. Go ahead, Mitch. Tell people that we are not in love. Imagine a reporter going to Mitch's spokesperson saying Hassan Piker has come out and said that he and Senator McConnell had gay phone sex. Would the senator do something like this with the person who said America deserved 9/11? Yeah. ADL and APAC coming out and being like, Mitch McConnell has to disavow Hassan Piker. So yeah. Are you going to canvass with Count Binface? I don't know what the hell's going on in British politics, but I'm not going to be canvassing with Count Binface because I famously am not allowed to enter the United Kingdom. So not exactly certain how I would be able to do such a thing. In any case, silence speaks louder than words in this case. Yeah. Okay. So where do we begin? I mean, there's a lot that has taken place, of course. Maybe do we have the playlist from Themasius? Themasius, you got that playlist? He's promising to build one affordable house. You have to help him win. I do not condone this joke. Drewski's most audacious skit yet. Thank you for the playlist. Joe Rogan just released an episode with audacious. Coworker Wig clocked you and Todic here.
in a suite that he got with like only Turkish fans.
Ah.
So they all went fucking crazy.
They smell like dog surgery.
And
too.
they all went. They all smell really good. They smell like cologne, and they all were going us. And then this is how you say like fuck you in Turkey. They're all like, if you see a Turkish person, do this.
Oh my god,
that is aggressive.
Gross.
And they were like doing the thing where like it means hello, and it's like I can just tell.
I can tell it means nothing nice.
Oh, so you do that to your mom? They say hello to your mom that way?
It looks really
Turkish guy?
bad. It looks much worse than a simple middle finger.
You're leaning too heavily into your Greek roots.
No, I don't think I'm leaning heavily enough.
Hey,
they're awful people.
This is from the Turks.
Yeah. Oh, that's a Turkish
I don't like
thing.
that it claps.
You know what the Greeks have?
That's
You're supposed to make it clap. The louder it claps, the better it is. It's true. Anyway, Slime is being anti-Turk there. It's kind of messed up, but we'll allow it. He's still the GOAT. Anyway, cream pie by washed Belgium's B team. Well, they got cream pie by the Turkish team too. So as always, the Turks were carrying. The Turks actually, Senator Mitch McConnell, 84, calls GOP allies from hospital to dispel internet chatter. He's brain dead. There's no way. There's no way that's not. New York Post didn't actually. That's a joke, right? They did not put the phone sex because that would be really funny. Okay. Yeah, so they're trying to weekends of Bernie him because they don't want, even for 4 months, for an anti-Israel senator to potentially win that special election for that special seat for a special boy. But yeah, we're gonna start off with some Graham Plattner news. As you guys know, credible accusations came out on a Politico piece that has been the primary focus of the national run that the Democrats are on right now, considering that Graham Plattner, who was a relatively popular and left populist veteran, Blackwater mercenary, and all around red flag haver, has been outed as a rapist by one of his former girlfriends. And of course, this has been a firestorm in Maine Democratic Party politics. Graham Plattner immediately said that the accusations were false, and then still obviously entertained dropping out regardless because, the accusations are not false. Okay, plenty of evidence for it. Regardless though, that's neither here nor there. I feel for the people of Maine, including the victim, especially the victim. There's been some back and forth. I think Graham Plattner wants to have a say in the process of who gets appointed, whereas the Maine Democrats are trying to figure out, are they going to do some kind of like election? Are they going to do some kind of like, super fast election? Are we going to relive the 2024 issues with the no primary that took place? Are the Maine Democrats going to select a candidate that is left populist in the similar vein to Graham Plattner's agenda that clearly was, regardless of his moral failings as an individual, his campaign was objectively popular, and that popularity led to 150,000 Mainers voting for him in the primaries. And of course, it's important to make sure that agenda is still is still followed through on. It's going to be quite difficult to make this swap. But in order to ensure that a left populist candidate takes on that role, whether it's by way of a special election or through a delegates process. Hopefully, the Maine Democrats do not fuck this up, which of course they probably will. But let's see. So, per source, Plattner campaign has sent volunteers a 2-question survey with a 48-hour deadline. If the Democratic Party hopes to harness our movement and avoid disillusioning the hundreds of thousands of supporters who came into the fray because of our movement's policies, it must consult the feedback and proposals of the people who built and sustained this. Right? What message do you have for the Democratic Party? What message do you have for Graham? Another source passed on a text for the campaign. I'll just post text so I don't share the link. This is Ben Chin, Graham Plattner's campaign manager. We've said from the very beginning that this campaign was never about Graham, but a movement of working people united to take back power. But yesterday, the Maine Democratic Party said that our movement will have no role in determining our next Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, nor in determining what the process looks like. Instead, under their watch and direction, they allowed the D.C.-based Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee to send staffers to plan a potential nominating process behind closed doors. Both the state and national parties cut our team, our volunteers, and our vast networks of supporters out of the conversation completely. This is such a unique situation, and it's such a chaotic situation. But it's a unique situation because, obviously, there's a lot of people who think that any association with Graham Plattner and the new person that they hand select is going to be negative. I don't agree with that. I don't think it will be negative because Graham Plattner is one person, whereas 150,000 Mainers that voted for him should have a say in this process, right? Not a lot of people who think that in Maine. Not a lot of people who think that in Maine. A lot of smooth brain people online, maybe. Yes. I am genuinely, look, I'm invested in making sure that Democrats maintain a Senate majority. Okay. And the Maine seat is pivotal for the Democrats to get a Senate majority. Okay. And clearly, in order for this process to take place, you have to ensure that there's not enough voter apathy. You have to ensure that there isn't so much voter apathy that the general election is cooked. Okay? That's precisely the reason why I'm talking not about Graham Plattner, the person, but about this movement and what people voted for. Okay? That's it. So, that's something to pay close attention to, and it's very strange that a lot of people are not paying attention to it. They're just talking about Graham Plattner. They're not talking about the people that voted for him and how they feel right now, especially considering that their feelings are going to be quite important because you cannot hemorrhage any support if you want to defeat Susan Collins, right? Graham Plattner obviously also has some leverage here, despite the fact that he has been roundly criticized and condemned by virtually every single person. And every single major person that endorsed him, campaigned with him, has unendorsed him. He has no leverage? No, that's not true. He does have leverage. He could just stay in. Do you understand how much leverage there is right now in his hands? He could just be like, I'm going to stay. I'm not going to drop out. And then what? That's crazy. I mean, he could just cook this entire thing. He could destroy this entire process. That is not even, that's like we are hoping that a guy who was dumb enough to run and a bad enough person, a narcissistic enough person to be like, yeah, I got some rapes under my belt, but I'm running for office in this pivotal fucking year, in this pivotal fucking race. That guy could just as easily turn around and be like, yeah, I'm staying. What do you mean? Like we're hoping that he does the right thing. Okay, well, the doing the right thing would have been not running for this position. That would have been doing the right thing, right? Doing the right thing would have been, hey, I got some weird stuff in my background. Take a look in the vetting process, which hopefully would have caused the people to say, yeah, we're not going to go with you. We're going to go with someone else. So we're expecting this guy to do the right thing. On what? If you were to say he has no leverage, he should fuck off, you categorically misunderstand the current predicament. He has maximum leverage. That's it. So, going back to this, Ben Shin, Graham Plattner, campaign manager, but yesterday the main Democratic Party said that our movement will have no role in determining our next Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, nor in determining what this process looks like. Instead, under their watch and direction, they allowed the D.C.-based Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee to send staffers to plan a potential nominating process behind closed doors. We firmly believe that the supporters and volunteers who built this movement deserve to have a real role in any nomination process. If the main Democratic Party hopes to harness our movement and avoid disillusioning the hundreds of thousands of supporters who came into the fray because of our movement's policies, it must consult the feedback and proposals of the people who built and sustained this. Your feedback will be sent to the main Democratic Party via this form. So yeah. And then there's a survey link, but I mean, I feel like that's a straight up, that survey link is going to get nuked. So I don't even like that they tried to do it like that. Do you think this is just a desperate attempt to stay in the race? No. I don't. I don't think so. I think he's trying to use his last level of, he's trying to use his leverage that he has to try to have somewhat of a say in the decision-making process here. But then again, I don't know. But I do know this. Out of all the scenarios, there are some where Susan Collins definitively wins. Okay? Susan Collins definitively wins for sure. Okay? If the Democratic Party comes in and by way of the main Democrats puts Janet Mills on that seat after she convincingly lost, right? There's no coming back from that. The people that voted for Graham Plattner are just going to be like, fuck that. Graham Plattner might even stay in the race in that process, right? And then you have to do a write-in candidacy for Pill's Mafia. Okay? And I don't even think they're going to do that regardless. I don't think they would do that because that is the dumbest thing that they could possibly do. That's the easiest defeat of all time. I think there are some other candidates. There are some other candidates, some not tarnished by the Graham Plattner association, right? Troy Jackson's association with Graham Plattner would, possibly be weaponized against him. There are some issues with that because he did endorse Graham Plattner and they campaigned together. I don't know if that is going to hurt him a lot because like the person that gets selected or gets elected by way of delegates or or directly through some sort of like direct democracy process in a special election, not entirely certain what they're going to go with here. The main Democrats, I don't know what they're going to end up choosing to do. But no matter what happens, like if there is an undemocratic process or if they're trying to like do a faithful swap out, that person has to be pro-Medicare for all and anti-Israel. Because those were the two top level issues for Graham Plattner that garnered a lot of support and a lot of attention. Okay, not talking about the person, talking about the campaign. So that's it. There's obviously arguments against there's also arguments against Graham Plattner endorsing a successor. One of the most common that I've seen from even members of this community is, if you like Troy Jackson, why do you want nonstop attack ads that go, Troy Jackson, handpicked successor of credibly accused rapist? This is delusional. Edinger Mentor says, this is exactly why I see the argument for someone like Shaw right now. Yesterday, I would have told you that Jackson was a slam dunk choice, but of course, this fucking psycho's ruining that too. I get that he was the moderate candidate of the primary. I get that he's probably an opportunist with his lefty position, but at the end of the day, you have 4 months here, and he comes off out of the gates with plus 10 faves at 70% name recognition, and he may not even be that opportunistic with stuff like Medicare for All. You could really do a lot worse, man. I don't agree with this assessment from Edinger Mentum, but new reporting from Sahil Kapoor from NBC News about Maine Democrats responding to the survey. Maine Democratic Party responds below after Plattner's campaign manager sends this text to supporters accusing the MDP of shutting his movement out of the process. So Maine Democrats are now aggressively posturing against Plattner for understandable reasons. Let's see. While the Plattner campaign remains focused on distracting from the job of defeating Susan Collins in November with false accusations against us, the Maine Democratic Party remains hyper-focused on developing a representative, transparent, and inclusive process to select a new nominee when he chooses to withdraw from the race. While we may be frustrated with Graham Plattner's continued efforts to manipulate this process, we are also thankful for his supporters and all their efforts to defeat Susan Collins. They are a vital part of our party and deserve to participate in an open process to select Plattner's replacement. Devin Murphy Anderson, executive of the MDP. Now, Devin Murphy Anderson is an interesting figure. Devin Murphy Anderson is also another, of course, centrist Democrat as well. Unsurprising to no one. So no matter who's picked, the Republicans will associate them with Plattner. They'd be stupid not to. Yeah. The Maine Democratic Party already did not want Graham Plattner. That's not a secret, for the record. They did not want Graham Plattner at all. Now, I think one of the easiest counters to this kind of oh, you guys actually had a rapist. You guys actually had a rapist in running for the Senate race is that Susan Collins is the top gal of the head rapist, Donald Trump. So I don't think those lines of attack are going to be as successful regardless, considering that if and hopefully when Graham Plattner drops out, Democrats could just as easily turn around and be like, yeah, we actually force our rapists not to become the president and we don't defend them. So I don't think that is going to be a significant line of attack regardless. I think there's a very easy point that you can present in that situation. Hell, that doesn't even matter. Let's be real. Maine Morning Star reports Graham Plattner has come to terms with dropping out of the race, according to a person who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Plattner's top strategists are urging him to drop out, according to a source close to his campaign. I mean, that does make sense. That does make sense that they're there, especially because even when he, oh my God, Andrea LaFlame, that would be really funny. The blue sky hand-selected pick, Andrea LaFlame, stop. We carry LaFlame. So, who is that? She was a writing candidate. She has like 4 IG followers, and I am one. Yeah, she was a writing candidate that the blue sky liberals tried to put ahead of Graham Plattner, and I think one of the funniest things that took place in that race was that she got more retweets on Blue Sky than she got votes in this writing candidacy that she had. Like, I think she got like 800 total votes or something, which was very interesting to watch unfold. Yeah, for the record, the Republicans have been trying to, weirdly enough, talk about how, Democrats are putting forward rapists and stuff. And it's actually leading to very funny moments on television where, Scott Jennings, the man with the least amount of shame I've ever experienced in my whole life, is as a major supporter of Donald Trump, Scott Jennings still has the audacity to talk about how Democrats love rapists. It's like, well, dude, you're kind of the worst person to say that, because your whole job is to defend Donald Trump on CNN, right? So let's take a look.
This latest victim, her politics were correct and his poll numbers were falling, so now they're able to get some courage when they had none before. They knew he was a scumbag before and they stuck with it.
So to be clear, if there is a credible allegation of either womanizing, domestic violence, or sexual assault, no one in a party should ever stand by the candidate.
So here's the problem. She got too excited. Okay? She should have just let him respond. Okay? She should have just let him respond.
Because if that is your statement, and I'd love to hear from you on this, if that is your blanket assertion, I got to tell you, Herschel Walker should have been out. Donald Trump should have been out of the race. You've got Roy Moore shouldn't have been running. I could go on in candidates, and I know that's not the ultimate test, but there's a hypocrisy.
It's tough. It's tough when you got a really good one in the chamber and you pop it. But unfortunately, I mean, she's right, and she makes a brilliant point here, brilliant observation that we've all made. But she should have held the alt and let let my man speak.
To it. And I'm not in any way, just so we're clear, I have been a rape prosecutor. You know I'm not condoning any allegation of sexual assault. But the question I have politically for you, Embassy, is the idea of...
But this
Looks like they've been polling for a Plattner quietly per Politico. Plattner campaign quietly polls potential replacements as pressure mounts. The flash poll obtained by Politico was conducted by Public Policy Polling and commissioned by Graham Plattner's campaign, according to a person with knowledge of the survey who was granted anonymity to discuss it. It tested head-to-head matchups between Republican Senator Susan Collins and Plattner, along with 5 possible Democratic replacements for Plattner, including former Maine Senate President Troy Jackson and Secretary of State Shenna Bellows. Yeah, here is the... Here is another one of these insane moments. Again, like, no Republican. Like, this is a intra-party affair, okay? Let's be real. We are having our inside conversation here, okay? Anytime a Republican tries to come into the conversation and tries to use this as an opportunity to be like, see, Democrats love rapists or whatever, everyone should get together and immediately dunk on them, okay? Because, I'm sorry, you have no leg to stand on in this conversation. As a matter of fact, the grand old pedophiles party is probably upset that the victim was not a minor, but an actual adult. Okay, they're not mad that consent was violated. They're mad that it was an adult whose consent was violated and not a child who can't consent, because that's what they're used to. You do not get to have any say in this fucking process. If you're a Republican, you need to suck shit and shut the fuck up. Okay, sorry, this is not a conversation you are allowed to participate in. That's it. That's my take. Maybe controversial, but you can't do that when Trump is president. You can't do that when Trump is the motherfucking president. When you got guys like, what's his face, Max Hill or whatever, who literally boiled his ex-wife's face with boiling water. Okay? Cry more? I mean, am I crying? Doesn't seem like I'm crying. Are you incapable of understanding different emotions? Is that what's going on? The pedo pardon party, the pedo protection party, does not get to have a say in this process. Okay? Especially when what's going on here is someone being rejected by virtually every part of the party and beyond for being credibly accused of rape, something that Republicans do not do. As I said before, the Graham Plattner rap sheet has now officially reached the Pete Hegseth rap sheet. Nazi tattoos and credible rape allegations. He should be Secretary of War. No one on Fox News is allowed to criticize Graham Plattner or the Democratic Party. Sorry, you're not allowed. Max Miller. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Sorry. Where are we at? Oops. Sorry. Oh, fuck. Yeah, you cannot complain about the Democrats when the Democrats are in a last-ditch effort trying to ensure that an alleged rapist is not on the fucking Democratic Party ballot, when it's probably better for their chances to keep him on and just solidify support behind him. Because if the Democrats operated in the same way that Republicans do, okay, if the Democrats operated in the same way that Republicans would do, they would just like double down, triple down, quadruple down, and be like, shut the fuck up. You know, at least our rapist is raping adults. Your rapists rape children. That's the shameless play here. You know what I mean? That's the shameless play. Just running a lesser evil rape campaign. And ironically enough, centrist establishment Democrats have run this play in the past. Okay? They have done this. So the idea that the idea that like this is a new instance is ridiculous. They did this with Cuomo. Many of the people who are complaining about Grant Plattner right now were literally Cuomo backers, either worked with Cuomo in disparaging some of Cuomo's victims or even demanded that Cuomo run against Zohran Mamdani in the general. So like these people also are shameless charlatans. Okay? But if the Democratic Party right now, or if the left in general right now was similar in their operations to the Republicans in any way, shape, or form, they would just be doubling down on Graham Plattner's support and being like, yep, we got to do that. Sorry. We just got to get Susan Collins out. Shut the fuck up and vote for the rapist. You know? That's it. They're not. They're not doing that. We're not doing that. Okay? So just remember that. There's only one group of people in American politics that will immediately and unconditionally drop someone with a credible rape allegation, and that is the left. Okay? Establishment Democrats don't do that, with the exception of Swalwell. That was one of the only instances where I've seen the Democrats actually do that, right? And ironically enough, the party that certainly doesn't do that is the party of Roy Moore, the party of Donald Trump. So when I see Republicans talk about this issue, I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Congressman, you can take this in so many different directions. I am completely disgusted with the Democratic Party and this candidate, their nominee. But I am worried for the country. If they're going to continue to stand by their men until they can't any longer, we may end up with bad candidates, bad office holders. Until it's too late, they'll already be there.
Well, the key is what you just said there, which is they're standing by him until they don't believe that they can any longer. In other words, Democrats, to your point, had no problem with the Nazi tattoo that was on his chest. By the way, I don't have any friends who have Nazi tattoos on their chest, and I don't think that most Americans either. You have to go looking for somebody who has a Nazi tattoo.
Dog, you don't have to have a Nazi tattoo for us to know you're a Nazi. Your wife is literally Indian, and you spend every day talking about how every single brown person needs to be deported immediately. And last but not least, you don't know any veterans with Nazi tattoos? You're on Fox News. There is a veteran with Nazi tattoos that literally is now the Secretary of War, and he was a commentator on this fucking network. What the hell? Who the fuck are these people talking to?
Tattoo on their chest. They didn't have a problem with that. They didn't.
I guess it's because, well, I was about to say, Pete Hegseth also has the Templar tattoo on his chest. So technically, he's not even able to get away with semantics on that one. So yeah, there is not even... You can't even make a semantic argument, be like, well, Pete Hegseth's like kafir tattoos on his arm. Like, no, he has one on his chest too. As a matter of fact, that's the reason why he was not allowed to participate in protection detail during the inauguration. He wrote a whole book about it because the National Guard looked at his tattoos and said, hold on, that's a very common white supremacist tattoo. You're not allowed to do the protection at the inauguration for Joe Biden. He wrote a fucking book.
Didn't have any problem with multiple credible allegations of abuse from multiple women until very recently, until we find out that the latest woman who's made credible allegations is left-wing politically. They had no problem before. They have had no problem with the really unsavory, just frankly disgusting things that he's written on all kinds of different social media platforms, the messaging apps that he had been on that predators tend to frequent. They had no problem with any of that. What they have a problem with now is they've gotten to the point where they don't believe that he's a viable candidate anymore, so they want to jump in and replace him. That's a problem. We need decent people running for office, not people that are so transparently scumbags.
And Brandon, you're correct. This is about electability.
Dude, what the fuck is Austin Ox doing? Austin Ox, hold on. Sorry. Austin Ox is fucking posting shit that I didn't say. Parker says he supports Charles Booker winning a special election, but that the likelihood of Thomas Massie winning is higher. That's not what I said. I said I support Charles Booker winning the overall election. And giving a 4-month window to Thomas Massie potentially. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He misunderstood the statement I was making, and he just like got me. He's about to get me fucking canceled. Fox Guy talks about decent people. His favorite president currently was on Epstein Island. Yeah, it's just like weird question, but do you not believe him about the Nazi tattoo anymore? What do you mean? Look, I said from the beginning that his fucking Nazi tattoo, especially having it for as extended of a period of time as he did, was insane to me. It didn't make any sense. But what made the story even crazier was that the most famous photo of him with the Nazi tattoo out, shirtless, literally is during a Jewish wedding that he was at. Okay? So I don't know what the fuck is going on in Maine, okay? I don't know what the hell's going on that like so many people saw that and not a single person was like, hey, you know, that's like a very famous Nazi symbol, right? Like that you're rocking on your chest piece right there. But yeah, in any case, yeah, it's just, he was screened by the military. I guess they didn't give a shit about it either. Which is also strange. But I guess it makes sense. Me 11 beers deep trying not to puke on a state trooper when he asked, do you know why? Burpee, dude. She just had a little burp. She just had a little burp in her mouth. It happens to the best of us, okay? Well, Haley Stevens not the best of us, but Stevens is doing tech YouTuber GPU performance graphing. Yeah, graph crimes for sure. 42% to Abdul's 41%. Finally, she got like one C-rated pollster to give her a marginal edge, totally within the margin of error, by the way. And it's really funny that she was like, yep, we're winning. What gives? Israel struggling to control her body. Her true self is trying to break free out. Yeah, this part of the debate devoured. What is this? Questions are off.
Now, here's the thing about it. There is no left or right. Most people out there aren't asking, where do I fit on the left-right spectrum? They're asking, can I afford my groceries when I go grocery shopping? What's going to happen if I get sick or my kid gets sick? Why does my kid's school look the same way it did 30 years ago when I went there? And the answer to that question is that for too long, politicians on both sides of the aisle have taken the same corporate corrupting money. I'm the only candidate on the stage,
just up, down.
frankly, the only candidate running for U.S. Senate who's never taken a dime of that money, which is why the real issue is about the people locking you out of your politics versus the people being locked out. And I will stand always on the side of the folks who are locked out. That is a pathway in our politics that I think all of us can get behind. It's not red, it's not blue, it's not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's American. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That is where our politics needs to go. And in the next 250 years, when we get to chart where we go from here, I hope we remember that that's what we need.
60 seconds.
I will run through anything and anyone to deliver
Why does
for
she keep saying
Michigan.
that? I will run through anything and anyone. Yeah. Hassan Diddy Piker, you have the biggest hard on for Palestine. You would have your own cuck brothel in Palestine, you big fat window licking bitch, and maybe touch some grass. You political bullshitting loser. Says Timmy 2004. South Park reference. 2004 in the name. Account created and following on the same day, so it's a sock account. You seem like a cool guy. Everyone here thinks you're a cool guy. All of your friends and family in the real world also think the same of you. Thank you for your input, chatter. Yeah, Andy Bashar is demanding some answers about Mitch McConnell as well. But let's get to a little bit of situation monitoring.
Fears that the war with Iran may be resuming. President Trump says he believes the ceasefire
Fears? I mean, it is resuming. All right. I got to pee. I'll be back in a second.
Can continue after the U.S. and Iran traded dozens of attacks overnight. The U.S. says it struck more than 80 targets while Tehran launched missiles and drones at Bahrain and Kuwait. Oil prices jumped on the news. This all comes as President Trump meets with NATO allies in Turkey. Ed O'Keefe joins us from Ankara. Ed, good morning.
Vlad, good morning. The strikes overnight appear to be the most extensive carried out by the U.S. since talks with Iran resumed less than 3 weeks ago. And while NATO leaders here are standing by the president for launching the attacks, their worst fears have been realized yet again, as he's once again questioning why the U.S. is a member of an alliance not willing to help with the war in Iran.
I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them and with this scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people.
President Trump opening the NATO summit by declaring, in his view, the agreement with Iran is off.
There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo.
Appearing visibly angry, the president repeatedly criticized Iranian leaders.
They're liars. They're cheats. They're sick people.
His comments came hours after renewed U.S. strikes on Iran. Thick orange smoke seen rising over Bandar Abbas, home to Iran's main naval base. U.S. Central Command launched what it called a series of powerful strikes hitting more than 80 Iranian targets, including air defense systems, radars, and at least 60 small boats, all after the U.S. says Iran attacked 3 tankers in the Strait of Hormuz.
I think what you did last night was absolutely necessary. It was a very strong response.
Trump also revoked a waiver allowing the sale of Iran.
Mark Rutte is the biggest cuck on the planet. And I guess it doesn't really matter. He's not going to have a future career in anything. But you know, he's burning his remaining credibility, or I guess he doesn't really have any credibility. This position doesn't require him to have any credibility either. So, oh God, Mr. Daddy, Mr. calling Trump daddy, Mark Rutte, sat there and was like, "You've done such a wonderful job blowing up Iran, Mr. President." Okay. Will you be joining Bernie and AOC to speak for Abdul? No, I will not be at those rallies. I will be somewhere else during that time. Unfortunately, I'm going to Michigan later, closer to the election. So yes, I will be missing the cool-ass Abdul rallies with AOC and Bernard Sanders, but I'm very excited that they're happening. Somewhere else is going to China? No, I'm not going to China. But yeah, Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative AOC will be doing rallies in Michigan with Abdul El-Sayed on July 18th and July 19th. Tell us your assassination coordinates, boss. No, I'm good. Thank you. Where are you going instead? I'll tell you when I'm there. How about that? Huh? How about that? All right. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Keep Americans away from me, please. I'm close for Americans. I'd let you send a ship through me, Hassan. Well, I am an American. So let me give you guys the summarization of the events that have unfolded in the Strait of Hormuz. So for those of you who have been paying attention, for those of you that monitor the situation or enjoy the situation monitoring, so there's an MOU. Part of the MOU is about controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Who gets to control it? Iran wants to control it. There's only 2 pathways through the Strait of Hormuz. You can either go through Keshem and go through the Iranian ports, which means that Iran gets to continue controlling the Strait of Hormuz. But you can also potentially go through the Omani coastline. Now, Iran doesn't want America to send ships through the Omani coastline because Iran wants to maintain control over the Strait of Hormuz. There's a tremendous amount of leverage that they now have that they're not going to give up. And that's precisely at the heart of the MOU, beyond, demanding Israel restrain itself, or demanding America restrain Israel, rather, in its unlimited battles in Lebanon and its constant territorial expansion in Lebanon. And of course, predictably, the United States of America has tried to do its very best to transit ships through the Strait of Hormuz, offering them naval protection, offering them to the best of their ability, like anti-drone protection. And Iran doesn't like that. Iran has blown up ships that have tried to transit through the Strait of Hormuz from the Omani coastline. They did this last week. And when they did this last week, America responded with a what they called a proportional retaliation, while still maintaining the position that the conversations were ongoing. The memorandum of understanding was still being followed through. The ceasefire was still being followed through. Obviously, it's a complex situation. Why would there be a ceasefire if both sides are firing at one another? Whatever. This past weekend's interactions that took place 2 days ago, 3 days ago, when Iran shot 2 ships, or more than 2 ships, I think 4 ships, kind of changed that dynamic a little bit. And America, yesterday, in the last 24 hours, engaged in not just a proportional retaliation, but a retaliation that they called a punishment, right? Iran struck 5 ships trying to transit through the Omani coastline, and America retaliated by shooting Iranian positions, Iranian ports, and did not stop blowing up Iranian targets for an extended period of time. And before people say, why is Iran attacking ships that are transiting through the Strait of Hormuz by the Omani coastline? Because Iran has maintained the position, understandably, that gives them maximum leverage. Iran has maintained the position that they will control all the ships transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. Like, they get to have a say in who passes through. They've said that they will allow all ships to transit without any impediment, but they have to go through the Iranian coastline. That's it. The MOU is pretty clear on this, that the Omani route is not within the MOU's parameters. The Omani route is not within the MOU's parameters, and that all of the ships have to still go through the Iranian route, the Iranian coastline. So America's actually not following through on the MOU at all, right? And they're doing this deliberately. And the reason why they're doing this is because I think the United States of America wanted a little bit of respite, a little bit of ease on the oil and gas markets for a couple of weeks, because we were reaching critical supplies and critical shortages on the strategic reserves that have been released to make up for 20% of the entire globe's oil and gas needs. And part of that was also offering a release on the sanctions that previously existed for Iranian oil tankers. And those sanctions are back on as of yesterday. So those are the 2 major things that took place. The United States of America not only attacked Iran, and not in a proportional manner, by their own admission, in a manner that was seeking out a punishment and escalation. And then Iran has since then started attacking American military bases, American critical assets in Bahrain, Kuwait, and the like. And seemingly they will continue this tit for tat. Donald Trump in the process came out and said the MOU is done. No more dealing and wheeling with these people. These guys are, barbaric. They're animals, whatever. Trita does not support your reading. For him, the peace initiative was real, but shaky. Yeah, I think it was perfidy. Trita still, at the end of the day, works in D.C. He has a much more positive approach to these sorts of conversations than I do. I think he's overly optimistic. I think it was clearly I think it was clearly an opportunity for America to release a pressure valve for a little bit and sell some Iranian oil in the market, in the global marketplace, so that they could normalize prices and combat the imminent crisis that was about to take shape. Here's JD Vance admitting as much on the Michael Knowles show.
There are a few things that we want. We want durable commitments that are verifiable and backed up by inspections that Iran will denuclearize their entire country. Okay, we're going to see how we get there. Number two, we want to see what kind of an arrangement actually exists in the Middle East between not just Iran and the United States, but the GCC, Israel, Lebanon. We're going to play that situation out. And then on the Strait of Hormuz, I mean, I think you actually said it well, which is that the strait is open in the sense that to oil traffic, we're seeing more oil come out of the Strait of Hormuz. And some days, actually, more oil coming out of the strait than came out before the war even started. So there's this element of the where the world oil economy is kind of getting back into gear. That's going to take a little bit of time, but you've already seen the prices come way down. Now, what the cynics will say is, well, if you look at the number of ships that are trafficking, that's actually down from the pre-war start. But they're mostly talking about cargo ships and other vessels. At least so far, what we've seen is the oil traffic has reached its pre-war height. So I think what the president has told us to do is use this MOU to sort of refill the world's oil economy, to refill some stocks, and then to see where the hand is. And
now here's the problem. This doesn't fix it. The only thing that can fix it is a permanent conclusion to the hostilities, a permanent cessation of hostilities, and allowing ships to transit through the Strait of Hormuz. This is the most consequential element of leverage that Iran has at their disposal. They're not going to give it up, and it doesn't make sense for them to give it up, especially when the United States of America has shown time and time again that the diplomatic route will only lead to perfidy. As a matter of fact, they're kind of showing it right now. So Iran knows, regardless of what the reformists versus the hardliners and their differences in opinion on the Iranian side, there is one reality that everybody understands, a reality that even a child can understand. They have to fight militarily and win militarily whatever autonomy, whatever sovereignty that they desire, right? For them, for the Iranian side, the calculation is simple. The Strait of Hormuz allows Iran to have tremendous leverage over the global energy markets, and it allows Iran to demand sovereignty, not by way of diplomacy, but by way of constantly having that threat, that leverage over the global energy markets, but where they could just say, look, we're going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz again if you try to fuck with us. It makes sense. It makes total sense. And given that the strategic oil reserves are at critical levels at this point, where they've basically dried out all around the world, especially in the Asian markets, but certainly even in the United States of America, they're reaching critical levels. This little moment of respite from the memorandum of understanding is only going to extend the timeline. But until there is one of two options, until America goes to war with Iran and this time around successfully defeats Iran militarily, something that they failed to do in the last 120 plus days, right? Or follow the path of diplomacy and concede on the demands that Iran is making. This is not going to go away. This problem is only going to get worse as a consequence of this back and forth. Joe Kent, former director of National Counterterrorism Center, leaned into the Brett Erickson analysis here. I'm gonna cover both. Okay. Joe Kent says, now that the MOU is effectively dead, as Brett explains below, we are back to attempting to find a military solution to the SOH. The problem is that we signed the MOU because there was no military solution and we needed the Strait of Hormuz open. Our best option is just to walk away. If we walk, Iran has no justification for targeting ships, and we can use sanctions relief as our carrot as opposed to risking a larger war in these ineffective tit-for-tat strikes. Brett Erickson, managing principal at Obsidian Risk, says, okay, he writes in Wall Street Journal, New York Times, WAPO, and Bloomberg. Brett Erickson talks about the sanctions waiver being taken away from Iran here, because that's the other side of the story. That's a very significant part of this conversation, because America didn't just strike back at Iran. America also took away the sanctions waiver that they had given to Iran so that Iranian oil tankers could trade in the global commodities market, right? This obviously allowed the markets to stabilize a little bit. But now that that's been taken away, there's market volatility once again. Okay? Before we get into that here, I'll show you, obviously, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is now at 19 million barrels, is critical. 19 million barrels away from estimated minimum operating levels. There will soon be no longer a safety buffer to protect the world from further losses out of the strait. Okay? This red line, once you reach this red line, you've reached a critically low level of supply. Okay? Given that this is a hard commodity that is necessary for survival, you know, we're talking about grid shutdowns. We're talking about the rest of the world looking like Cuba. Okay? You can't do that. There's nothing you can do. You can't, once the pedal hits the metal, you're cooked. This is during a heat wave. People will die as a consequence of this. If we'll start seeing rations, you know what I mean? It's certainly a moment to panic. Okay? Brett says, moments ago, the United States revoked the general license that lifted sanctions on Iranian oil. This is the other side of the story beyond the strikes on Iran that CENTCOM admitted was a punishment and an escalation. Unlike the previous strikes on Iran, when there was a tit for tat between ships transiting through the Omani coastline and then America punishing Iran or retaliating towards the Iranian centers that were, you know, launching drones and whatnot. The significance of this move cannot be overstated. It is a complete destruction of the memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. Two things need to be highlighted right off the bat here. One, Washington had justification for doing this after Iran struck multiple vessels crossing the Strait of Hormuz via the Omani route in the last 24 hours. Two, this was an incredibly stupid move from Washington. Something I have highlighted since its original issuance on June 21st is the General License X is more politically damaging for President Trump than it is economically game-changing for Iran. While it could have resulted in a windfall of upwards of $1 billion for Tehran over the course of the initial 60 days, this is really inconsequential when compared to the massive damage their country has seen throughout the war. And that political damage for Trump, it already happened. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. He's already taken those blows. Exactly. And it, I think, wasn't that consequential. I think sanctions relief for Iranian oil in the last 60 days is not necessarily all that politically damaging. As a matter of fact, I think it normalized the markets, and therefore it limited the amount of political damage he would receive at the domestic level because gas prices skyrocketing are far more damaging. Because Americans, by and large, don't pay attention to these sorts of things. And Donald Trump had already lost the war and had lost the battle. And therefore, he had already incurred the political damages of diminishing American force projection capabilities at the domestic level. At the international level, we have not even seen the beginning of that story yet, right? So the oil sanction waivers were the only notable upfront concession that Iran received for the joint lifting of blockades in the Strait of Hormuz. The frozen assets being released is orders of magnitude more important for Iran. But as of yet, not a penny has moved. It's not just the frozen assets being released that's important, because that's like almost $100 billion worth of frozen assets, and that's huge. That's a huge windfall. That is an absolute necessity. the $300 billion in additional economic aid that would come from, the Gulf partners and maybe some American businesses, also a big deal as well. But outside of that, the consequential element, the most consequential demand, aside from restricting Israel's behavior in Lebanon, was the removal of not just the secondary sanctions, but the primary sanctions as well. This would open up the Iranian economy to the rest of the world. This would be a huge deal, right? That's the biggest deal for Iran. That's what they want. That's the whole purpose as to why. That's the whole purpose as to why Iran has even engaged in any sort of enrichment of uranium beyond civilian levels. It's a leverage that they've tried to maintain so they can draw America back to the negotiations process, so they can turn around and negotiate the release of all sanctions on the Iranian economy, right? So as of now, says Brett Erickson, not a penny has moved. I don't think that's correct. There was some money that was sent, for the record, to Iran by way of the United Arab Emirates. So I don't think that's also completely correct, but it's fine. This has been repeatedly confirmed by both Iranians and the Americans. What this revocation does accomplish is a complete and total destruction of the memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. I do agree with that. That this is it's over. Like, they're basically saying the memorandum of understanding is done. We're lighting it on fire, right? This is far more detrimental to negotiations and an end to the permanent cessation of hostilities than a tit-for-tat response to the vessel's strikes by Washington. This destroys the entirety of the MOU. Did Washington have some justifications for revoking this waiver? Absolutely. I don't agree with that either. Is this a catastrophic move for securing an enduring cessation of hostilities between the U.S. and Iran? Absolutely. I do agree with that. Was this an insanely foolish move from the Trump administration, given that the political blowback has already been received, the relative insignificance of this waiver, and the irreparable damage to the U.S.-Iran negotiations? Absolutely. He wrote these comments in Washington as well. He said that this is not a small step by Washington. This is a major step by Washington. Now, considering that Iran had valid reasons for assuming that America would not engage with them at the diplomatic level, given that they had received perfidy from the American and Israeli side over and over again during the previous bouts of diplomacy, sanctions relief, or at least a waiver, a general license for Iran to sell oil in the global marketplace, was supposed to be the first good faith, the first good faith concession that America could make. Okay? Them taking this away makes the reformers and the moderates on the Iranian side look completely ridiculous. Okay? How can you engage with a foreign adversary that's bombing you in good faith if they can't even abide by some of the initial principles? Because remember, this memorandum of understanding is to just bring them to the negotiation table so they can have a longer cessation of hostilities agreement. Okay? 131 days, and we're back to square one. A lot of the concessions, a lot of the demands being made for the memorandum of understanding were so that Ghalibaf and Arakshi and the other, diplomacy side could justify going to the table with America, as opposed to the hardliners on the IRGC side that recognize that the only way to deal with America was through hardware, through, military victories. by punishing the rest of the globe and stopping the transiting of oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, creating an international crisis where the rest of the world would blame the United States of America. That's where we're at. So now the ball is in Iran's court once again. But yeah, Joe Kent says America should walk away from this deal now that they've destroyed the memorandum of understanding, and then dangle sanctions relief as a carrot. Meanwhile, CENTCOM is also talking about removing their military assets and their bases entirely from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Bahrain, and then moving them to Israel. Completely misreading the situation. Why do you say that? Oh, you're saying America's completely misreading the situation. All I will say is this. If I'm an IRGC general and a hardliner who believes in the success of the military might of the IRGC, of the drone operations, I'm looking at the situation and saying, what other options do we have? Because even openly removing American assets from Bahrain and Kuwait and maybe even Saudi Arabia would be an admission, once again, and a concession that the Iranians already demanded regardless. Moving them to Israel would put Israel in harm's way and would give more justification to the Iranians as far as, moving the battle in the direction of Israel. Now, it's harder for Iran to strike Israel as opposed to striking Bahrain and Kuwait and the American assets in the region. Certainly harder for them to do that. That's part of the reason why they haven't done it, right? But if Iran concentrates all of their attacks on Israel as opposed to the Gulf, I mean, that puts Israel in a harder position overall. So we shall see. But the question still remains. What can the United States of America accomplish militarily that they didn't in the last 130 days? Do they have a secret sauce, a secret recipe? Were they holding back? I don't think so. I don't think they were holding back at all. They went in with maximum pain, failed to establish air supremacy over Iranian soil, lost assets in the process. So I don't see the United States of America and Israel turning around and changing their strategy and actually achieving something militarily this time around that they couldn't in the last 130 days. That led to them begging Iran to come to the negotiations table, which Iran finally conceded on after America actually gave some significant concessions to Iran. The only thing that remains that the United States did not utilize was boots on the ground military warfare, or obviously nukes.
As I've said this repeatedly, if the Iranians are willing to make the commitments that we would like them to make and are willing to back those up with verifiable milestones, then we are going to change our relationship with Iran. And if they don't do that, then nothing has really changed except for what we've already accomplished from the military campaign, which is a lot. Right. So we kind of have two options here. We have the option of pursuing a long-term deal with the Iranians, but that requires a significant change in their behavior. We have the option of banking our wins, and then, of course, doing things on top of that if the president feels that we have to. And I think both of those options are very much in play, and the president's going to let this play out. But what's happening right now is he's letting those options play out in an environment where there is significantly less pressure on the world energy economy.
But there isn't. The pressure valve is released only for a couple weeks at best. What now? What now? You get a moment of respite, but once again, one of the craziest parts about this is, like, if we're talking about the domestic considerations, if we're talking about the domestic considerations, any kind of pushing the timeline back draws this conflict closer to the midterms. That is maximum pressure and maximum leverage for Iran during the American midterms election. Trump obviously doesn't want to go to prison. He doesn't want to go through the impeachment process. He doesn't want any accountability. And the more he pushes this crisis, this gas crisis, major energy crisis closer to the midterms, the more likely a Democratic blue wave becomes. Like, we're not just talking about Maine in play. We're talking about races that previously weren't in play, potentially becoming races that are purple. We're talking Charles Booker might have a shot at becoming the next senator out of Kentucky. Okay? We're talking about significant flips depending on how bad the pain gets for the average American. So what the fuck are they thinking? Because he's buying us off. White House touts launch of 25 Freedom Fuel gas stations. I saw this. That's not going to help. That's not going to work. White House has launched 25 Freedom Fuel gas stations in an attempt to provide Americans cheaper options at the pump. Of course, once again, shady private corporation interference coming into play. The first Freedom Fuel Network gas station has landed in Philadelphia, lowering the price of the pump to $3.47 for our 47th president, the White House wrote on social media platform X on Tuesday. President Trump is leading the charge to lower gas prices this summer, putting more money in your pocket. By the way, stolen from Abdul, money in your pocket, money out of politics, Medicare for all. Anyway, these guys are very clever. 20 of the stations are located in Pennsylvania, while 5 are in New Jersey, according to the Freedom Fuel Network's website. A White House official told The Hill the Freedom Fuel Network is a private company and did not receive subsidies from the administration. The average price of a gallon of regular gas in those two states is roughly $3.98 and $3.86, respectively, as of Wednesday, according to AAA. The national average price of fuel is $3.79 per gallon as of Wednesday, AAA reported. The Hill has reached out to the White House Energy Department for further details on the new gas stations. In an accompanying video posted by the White House, multiple customers tout the new gas stations as helping them save money. One man said he was very happy about the cheaper fuel, while another girl remarked she was super pumped about the new options. Okay? Gas prices spiked in the early months of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran after the Iranian military brought shipping in the Strait of Hormuz to a near standstill. Last year, nearly 34% of the world's crude oil passed through the waterway, with most exports going to Asia, according to the International Energy Agency. Here's the video of it, by the way.
Save money. I had to go back in and get my change. I thought gas was more expensive, but it's not. So thanks, Trump, for saving me some money.
We're here at the first Freedom Fuel Network gas station right here in Philadelphia, leading the charge to lower gas prices, $3.47. That's for our 47th president, President Donald J. Trump. The price of gas here is 50 cents lower than the Pennsylvania average gas price.
4th of July, gas prices are coming down, which is great.
I am very happy about the cheap gas prices.
Happy 4th of July.
Hopefully everyone has a great holiday. Super pumped the gas prices are lowered.
I'm just grateful. Right now, we're in a difficult time in this world, but it's nice to see some stability that we can enjoy.
Definitely appreciate the lower gas prices.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
When I saw it, I thought it was fake news, but I'm glad it's true. I definitely couldn't believe my eyes. When I just rolled past, I'm actually taking a trip down the shore, so I wasn't even gonna come and get the gas, but I'm glad I did, because now it just saved me a lot of money. Thanks a lot, Trump. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, President Trump.
Thank you for helping our country.
It's President Donald J. Trump leading the charge to lower gas prices right here at Freedom Fuel Network's gas stations.
I am not against government-owned gas stations. I am a socialist. I just don't think that this is going to do away with the national problem, however. So let's see where this goes. This is just another shady loss leader discount chain. They exist everywhere. Is this the Chud bread line? Kind of.
And this is my biggest frustration with right-wing critics of what we've done over the last few months in Iran, is that they don't realize how completely they were losing the political argument because of what was happening to world energy markets.
Yeah.
So what the President of the United States has done...
You're talking about the critics who want more bombs dropping on.
Their attitude is just drop bombs and drop bombs and drop bombs, and they can't really articulate to what end. And what the President is saying, I'm willing to drop bombs, and he's clearly shown that he's willing to drop bombs, but only if it serves an objective. And so what he's doing right now is taking a lot of pressure off of the world economy, the world energy economy in particular, while not giving up a single one of his gains and while preserving a lot of optionality. I think that's a very good place for us to be in, but there's uncertainty because no one can be certain what the Iranians.
No, the Iranians are the unstable party here and not Donald Trump. You know what I mean? It's very cool. But yeah, Trump now says the Iran ceasefire is over, folks.
Iranian oil on the world market. In response, a top Iranian warned the era of bullying and extortion is over. It leads nowhere. We don't fold. Iran retaliated with attacks of its own, saying it launched strikes on 85 American military targets in Bahrain and Kuwait. The attacks came during a pause in negotiations as Iran holds a massive days-long funeral for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader killed on the first day of U.S.-Israel attacks on Iran.
We said, go and do your funeral stuff. And instead of that, they start shooting rockets at ships.
At the summit, the president also unloaded on alliance members for not doing enough to help the U.S. against Iran.
We protect them, but they're not there for us. Think of it. Doesn't work.
But the conflict in Ukraine is also a top concern. Trump says they're close to a deal with Russia.
It's too bad it took so long, but I think there's going to be something's going to come out.
Even as he meets with Zelensky, the president said the fighting between Ukraine and Russia doesn't affect the U.S. That's the kind of rhetoric that worries NATO members here in Europe, who are, of course, much closer to the war. The president also said again he's still interested in controlling Greenland. Remember that? He said European leaders' refusal to let the U.S. take control of Greenland is what's hurt his relationship with NATO. The world's largest island is, of course, controlled by Denmark, and its prime minister this morning reiterated Greenland is not for sale. Natalie?
Ed O'Keefe in Ankara, Turkey. Thank you.
Trump also did a press conference accompanied by some of his top brass at NATO. But going back to the crisis, the situation monitoring and the crisis that's imminent. One, the IRGC shot down another U.S. MQ-9 Reaper UAV drone in the Bushehr province. And Donald Trump is now posturing about potentially taking over Karg Island, which, again, why didn't you do it last time? Right? This is the question that should be asked to Donald Trump by every member of the media. Mr. President, you are talking about militarily taking over Karg Island. Why was this not why did this military operation not take place in the last 130 days? Why do you have more confidence that you could potentially pull off an operation such as this one now if you did not have that same level of confidence in the last 130 days?
Island last night, we knocked out a piece. I said, don't touch the oil, because maybe we'll take over Karg Island. You know, we may take over Karg Island. There's not a thing they can do about it. But I said, don't hit the pipes, just hit everything else. And they hit it. They may hit it again tonight.
Yeah. Murtaza Hussein says the GCC states are in a zero-sum situation where they're being forced to choose between the United States and Iran in the Persian Gulf. It's a frustrating situation to be in because if Trump strikes Karg Island, then their assets are directly in the line of fire. So yeah, not only is this military operation going to be successful, this this idea that Donald Trump will strike Kharg Island without any retaliation from the Iranian side is also ridiculous. And if the goal here is to ease the tensions over who gets to control the Strait of Hormuz, the only solution here is diplomacy. I thought we had established that fact, and yet Trump is still trying to go back to that. And once again, as the rest of the world loses in this process, market volatility, reaching dangerous levels of oil shortages, the only country that seemingly wins in the short term is Israel. The only country's goals that are being followed through on is, once again, Israel.
We have, as you know, the oil is down. We'll see whether or not we keep it down. We should keep it down. We're doing things that should have been done 47 years ago with Iran. And I just want to say that throughout my first term and over the past 18 months, the United States has led a historic effort to dramatically increase the defense spending and to have equipment that no other country in the world has. When you look at Venezuela, when you look at Iran, essentially demolished their military in a couple of weeks. They had a good military, they had a good navy, they had 159 ships, everyone's at the bottom of the sea. They had hundreds of airplanes, they're all gone. They're all lying burned up on the runways. They were totally decimated, their radar's gone. Everything's gone. Their leaders are gone, frankly. And their combat capability is pretty low. They have a small percentage of missiles left. They have some of the launchers, missile launchers left, call them launching pads, but most of that's been destroyed too. So we have the strongest military in the world by far, not even close. Everybody admits it. Last year's summit in the Netherlands was great also, and we achieved an unprecedented agreement to increase the annual defense spending, and it's the benchmark, raising it from 2% to 5% of GDP.
By the way, oil isn't up because traders have left the oil market because they're sick of being stolen from by insider trades. So oil will sit at $100 until it's not, and it more than doubles. I feel like that's an insane statement. I don't know. I don't understand, how this stuff works at all. So I can't speak on it. I do think the one thing I do understand is this: a hard commodity that has inelastic demand, if it reaches a critical shortage, will inevitably cause shortages that people can see, right? That people can experience, that people can feel, that people can understand. Because there just simply won't be oil at the gas pump. There won't be gas at the gas pump. There won't be energy to feed into the electrical grid. It's just, there's nothing you can do at that point. Everything will be affected by it. At which point, it doesn't matter what the fucking market price is. Okay? Whether it's living on vibes and copium and confidence, does not matter. The same goes for fertilizers, for example. If fertilizer is not, or the precursory chemicals necessary for fertilizer is not transiting through the Strait of Hormuz, then there is no agricultural output. If there's no agricultural yields, because there's no fertilizer, then the price of the price of everything goes up. The price of these commodities goes up. It's just not anything you can do in the stock market. Like, you can just assume that the prices are not going up, but people will feel it. People will experience it. Kami doesn't know economics. Yes. Well, I wouldn't say I don't know economics. I just don't understand the way that the current market operates, because I have this suspicion that it's on a hope and a dream. It's not vibes. Traders are getting mollywopped by the corruption, so there's no liquidity, so prices don't move.
Which everybody said was impossible. And now they're all thanking me, and most of the countries have agreed.
Yeah. U.S. crude stocks in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve fell by another 6.2 million barrels in the week ending July 3rd, dropping to 319.5 million barrels, the lowest since April 1983, according to the Department of Energy data reported by Reuters. The reserve has been drained steadily since Trump ordered the release of 172 million barrels in March to plug gaps in the global supply and hold down fuel prices after launching the war on Iran alongside Israel. Since the war began at the end of February, total U.S. inventories, commercial and strategic combined, have fallen by nearly 121 million barrels to 734 million. Once the full 172 million barrel release completes, the SPR is set to fall to roughly 243 million barrels, its lowest since 1982. That is near the reserve's estimated operational floor between 150 million barrels, below which the underground salt caverns that store the oil risk losing the pressure needed to maintain their structural integrity, per industry analysts. Yes, there will be a chain reaction if we reach that level. Again, when you run out of oil, the speculations don't matter anymore, okay? The confidence that you have in the stock market, none of that matters, even though all of it will fall apart regardless. There's a critical no return point. Donald Trump was nearing that critical no return point, which is why he did the memorandum of understanding to begin with, as we find out now. But going back to that situation only makes the critical no return point the point of no return closer to the fucking midterms. Not sure where we go from here.
We have a couple of that didn't, but I have a feeling they're going to, and pretty quickly. In fact, today they were very positive. One of them in particular was, I didn't think, a good team player. Today was a great team player. As all of the leaders understand very well, the United States remains by far the largest contributor to NATO, monetarily and maybe otherwise, and the strongest military anywhere in the world. And they respect us as a country. Again, they didn't respect us 2 years ago. They laughed at us. NATO laughed at us. Everybody laughed at us. They don't laugh anymore. There's no more laughing. This year we invested a record $1 trillion in our armed forces, and we're going to be asking for 1.5 trillion coming up. We have the money being spent on the best equipment anywhere in the world. In the working session this morning, we discussed the progress other members are making toward the 5% target, and they're making great progress. Many of these countries are very rich, by the way. We don't have to feel sorry for them. But it doesn't mean they're properly protected. There's a big difference. Some have truly answered the call, and others are making big changes and will be answering the call. I think I can say in all cases they're going to be answering the call. And we'll be taking in over $1 trillion a year toward defense. And that's a tremendous amount of money. It's a big up. They were at 2%. They were actually at 1%. I got them to 2%. Then I wanted to get them to 5%. And we got up to 5% the last time. And they're, just again, if you could have seen the respect and the love in the room, and it's love really for the country, for our country. I don't want to say me, because you'll say, oh, he's so conceited. He's such a conceited person. But they do. I mean, they like the job I'm doing. They said, sir, we love you. These are grown people saying that. Isn't that nice? Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're trying to get to me. And in a way they did, because there was tremendous unity in that room. And I urge all nations to accelerate their plans to get the benchmark as quickly as possible. The benchmark is going to be that 5% number. That's the number it should have been for years. As a result of the commitment we achieved last year, defense spending of other NATO members surged by more than almost $150 billion in 2025. And
Plattner polling better than Mills post scandal is crazy. Oh my God. New Maine Senate poll, 7-7 post scandal, shows Graham Plattner at 42% to Susan Collins gaining 5 points. Against Susan Collins versus Janet Mills matchup, Janet Mills is still performing worse than goddamn Graham Plattner. Troy Jackson, on the other hand, up +5 against Susan Collins, 44. Let's see what some of the other people polled look like, or what their performance looks like. So Plattner loses to Collins in this matchup. 11% said they were undecided. Also tested Jackson, Bellows, former Senate candidate Jordan Wood, former public health official Nirav Shah, and Democratic Governor Janet Mills. Flash poll was conducted over a 24-hour period. Of the Democrats tested, Jackson performed the best, Troy Jackson, leading Collins 49-44 with 7% of voters undecided. Bellows and Shah both essentially tied Collins at 47% and 45% respectively. Mills has not weighed in publicly on the political poll report, trailing Collins 48% to 37%, while Wood trailed 47% to 38%. 15% were undecided in both the Wood and Mills matchups. Incredible. Hey, do you know anything about the stuff with Troy Jackson throwing a water bottle out of female staffer? Heard it from Progressive Victory friends. Brother, if you ever bring some Progressive Victory shit in here to me ever again, I will fucking put you on a spaceship to the sun. One-way ticket to the sun. You're going. Okay? Never do that ever again. Never do that ever again. Okay? Ridiculous. A right-wing smear against a dude who's been in the state legislature and the president for 6 years, been in the state legislature for 20 plus years, is being elevated as though it's like a serious fucking problem that is known by everyone in Maine state politics, because the Progressive Victory group posted it. These unsubstantiated right-wing smears posted it and then deleted it. Are you out of your fucking mind? They are deeply unserious. Hopefully they learn something from these lessons. Jesus Christ. What's next, dude? Are you going to talk to me about Digital Ground Game, DGG? What have they done? Should we talk about them too? What are we doing? These are not serious institutions. Please stop. Some of you see like a group on Twitter with a fucking check mark and immediately go, oh, this must be valid. Stop, please. Not every organization is like a serious organization. Progressive Victory openly admitted that they are an unserious organization afterwards. They're like, oh, we're just a bunch of live stream chatters. I mean, come on. I don't know how valid this is, but Maine State Representative Valley Geiger says Graham Plattner is supporting her bid for U.S. Senate in Maine should he drop out of the race. I don't know why she just came out of the gate swinging on this. I will say this, though. I will say this. I don't think a Graham Plattner endorsement is as bad as people claim it is on Twitter. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Like, people are greatly, I mean, people are just wrong for assuming that's a bad thing from the perspective of the Mainers, especially considering that he's still at fucking 42% and performing better than Janet Mills against Susan Collins after the credible rape allegations hit the timeline. Okay? From the perspective of Mainers, a Graham Plattner endorsement is a continuation. They will recognize it most likely as a continuation of like the populist rage that they clearly have. Apparently Plattner made the announcement. I don't know. There's a lot going on, man. People think his endorsement is bunk because they think he's an operative. He's not. He's just a rapist. You are wrong. Most Mainers hate the fucking guy after it came out that he's a rapist. Demonstrably, the polling shows an alternative reality to what you're saying. Yeah. I've learned that it'll be a caucus over a convention, but still missing a few details, says David Dayen, saying that the process will be inclusive and that Plattner supporters will participate in the open process a step forward and recognize the rejection of any backroom deal. But the process should be developed by now, as time is of the essence. Everybody get on with it, says David Dayen. Washington Post is reporting that Graham Plattner will be speaking tonight. That is the other reporting also corroborates that. Okay. I think, given what happened with Kamala Harris being handpicked as the continuation of Biden with no open primary process, something that I was in favor of as well, by the way, which I think was wrong. I will recognize that. That was one of my biggest L's. Given that, especially considering how Kamala ran, right? If Kamala ran as like a more populist, change candidate, things would be different. She would be president right now. But given how things worked out, as Kamala was the hand-selected establishment replacement for Joe Biden, and did not run as a change candidate, but a continuation, and how she lost to Donald Trump, I would go so far as to say the highest level of panic from liberals in every state, including Maine, is rerunning that same exact situation where the Maine Democratic Party does like a shady backroom deal, put forward an establishment Democrat to say, this is who you have to vote for, suck it up. If they do that, it's definitely going to lose. The whoever that candidate is will definitely lose to Susan Collins, 100%. There needs to be transparency in this process. Okay? There needs to be transparency in this process. A lot of people are very frustrated. As a matter of fact, part of the reason why they voted for Graham Plattner over the hand-selected establishment candidate that the Democrats cleared the field for, who happened to be the governor, Janet Mills, is because of that rage that they had towards the party. They wanted to punish the party. They were looking for a different path forward. Turns out that different path forward wasn't just a populist campaigner, but a populist campaigner that also happened to be a rapist, allegedly. Okay? Maine State Representative Valley Geiger, D. Rockland, says Graham Plattner wants her to take his place on the ballot and run against Susan Collins in November. Maine's Total Coverage spoke with Geiger on the phone on Wednesday afternoon before Plattner made any formal announcement and said he called her on Monday night and said he was throwing his support behind her. He said, Valley, you're a fighter. You have been with this movement since the beginning, Geiger told Maine's Total Coverage. She says Plattner then asked if he could put her name forward, and she said yes. Geiger says she's heartbroken by the allegations against Plattner, but that he can't run for the Senate. The Maine Democratic Party did schedule an emergency meeting at 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Geiger, a Democrat from Rockland, represents House District 42. Her currently serving her third term. Geiger sits on both the Labor Committee and Energy, Utilities, and Technology Committee. What is this? Kyle Kalinske. Okay, dude. But yeah, this was from yesterday from the Maine Democrats. But I also disagree with Edinger Mentham's take that this is a bad move that will tarnish whoever his hand-selected candidate is. I don't think that works that way. Not only does he have tremendous leverage over this process because he can just choose not to drop out, which would be devastating, but outside of that, I think given that 150,000 plus Mainers voted for him, he still has a lot of swaying power over the election. Okay? That's what I think. It looks like the reports about him trying to make his departure conditional on him getting to choose his successor are true, utterly embarrassing behavior on his part that could turn this into an even bigger disaster for his supposed movement. Don't like him, but fully disagree. You should fully use his leverage as the nominee to replace him with someone with the same politics voters elected him for. Under the threat of staying in and handing the race to Collins, it will be an anvil around the necks of everyone who supported him. You cannot play fast and loose about defeating Republicans like this. No, I think here's why I disagree. Because I think the Graham-Plattner victory, from the perspective of Mainers, was a victory over the establishment Democrats. This is a continuation of that same exact resentment politics that has built and has grown in the heart of many Mainers who ended up voting for the red flag-induced alleged rapist. Okay? So this, if anything, doubles down and offers more credence to whoever the hand-selected candidate is that will be anti-establishment. That's what I think. Fighting in public about it is not great. Even then, I don't necessarily agree with that either. I think very publicly opposing the establishment Democrats, even if the establishment, here's what it is. Even if the establishment Democrats were like, we're totally fine with Troy Jackson, which they very well could be, by the way, because Troy Jackson is like much more balanced, boring, issue focused, right? So like, they probably would be fine with the Troy Jackson replacement. But if there's a seeming battle between the establishment forces and Graham-Plattner here, that actually boosts the legitimacy of Troy Jackson. I think it boosts his left populist anti-establishment credibility. Do you not understand that Bernie fucking Sanders just unendorsed him? Plattner doesn't have the same level of motion anymore. I don't think you guys are understanding. This has nothing to do with Bernie Sanders. This has everything to do with the voters in Maine and what they voted for, what their demands are. Okay? At this point, Graham-Plattner, the person, is utterly irrelevant. Okay? This is more so the platform and the demands. They voted before he was outed as a rapist, bro. I don't think you guys understand what I'm saying here. Okay? This has been lost in the conversation. I don't know why. I don't know why this has been lost in the conversation in its entirety. An election took place. Okay? An election took place with a shit ton of red flags on Graham-Plattner regardless. Okay? And the voters said, we don't care about the red flags. Those red flags are not red flags for us. We care about the platform. We care about saying fuck you to the establishment Democrats. Okay? The voters voted for the character to a certain degree, not the character, like the moral character of Graham-Plattner, but the character he portrays himself as, right? The rugged veteran guy who speaks convincingly on a lot of these issues. I'm talking about the Mainers and the way they're looking at the situation. A rejection of that populist rage would cause voter apathy. Okay? Given the fact that he's still outperforming Janet Mills by like 7 points after the voters that were polled knew that he was a rapist, alleged rapist, I think there's still plenty of fucking anger in the tank. Any conversation that does not feature the demands of the Mainers that voted for Graham-Plattner pre-rape allegation is the dumbest conversation of all time and will lead to complete failure here against Susan Collins. 100%. The low-key lawyer at the center of the search for a Plattner replacement, Charles Dingman, chair of the Maine Democratic Party and a progressive, would play a key role in choosing the state's Democratic Senate candidate if Graham-Plattner leaves the race. This is from Tim Balk. If Graham-Plattner withdraws from the Senate race in Maine, the task of finding a new Democratic nominee will fall in part to Charles F. Dingman, a progressive with a soft-spoken professorial style, who is the chair of the Maine Democratic Party. Mr. Dingman, 72, a lawyer from rural Leeds, Maine, who enjoys hiking mountains, sometimes two a day, has been in his role for about a year and a half. But now with Mr. Plattner's campaign appended by a rape allegation that he denies, Mr. Dingman's position has taken on a new urgency. Yeah, people are so eager to dunk on DSA or leftists that they lose sight of what Mainers are saying with their votes. Exactly. I don't know why. Part of the reason why the person, Rasico, who is the rape victim, didn't come out initially was because of the calculation even she was making. Okay? And part of the statement after she came out as being victimized by Graham-Plattner was still the idea that she agrees with his politics. Okay? Like it's crazy to me that people are just like casting all of that aside. None of this is to say that Graham Plattner should remain in the race, mind you. I'm saying he should drop out. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the policies and that platform, that left populist rage, still very much remains at the heart of a lot of voters in Maine. Okay? I don't know why people don't see what I'm seeing, and it leads me to believe that maybe there's a little bit of, astroturfing of this message, of this meta. Chat is waiting for you to address this characterization of you. Okay. We got to lock in, please. It's perfectly understandable that a lot of leftists are going to resist the idea that there's value to a rapist endorsement. It's not really that hard to understand. I know, but we're not having a conversation about like the morality of the situation. We're having a conversation about the pragmatic nature of this decision. Okay? Analysis does not equal endorsement. I can't believe I have to repeatedly say this even at this point. I've made my position on Graham Plattner very clear. Okay? I don't know what else to say about it. We're not talking about online leftists. We're talking about fucking Mainers, man. We're talking about people in Maine. The people that went out and voted for Graham Plattner in Maine are not majority report heads. They're not Michael from Pennsylvania fans. They're not fans of mine that heard, my commentary on the matter and were like, yeah, it's very clear that Graham Plattner is a better choice here. I'm excited to go and vote for him. They're people that are not online. Do you understand? So it's the back and forth that's taking place on the timeline on Twitter is utterly immaterial. If anything, the fucking Facebook comments and the TikTok comments are probably closer to the average normie's perspective. It's the same reason why it's very frustrating that whenever I talk about like the qualities of the candidate, when I talk about Graham Plattner and like what was so appealing about Graham Plattner for a lot of people, they immediately go, oh, you're defending him. Oh, you love him. You want him to be your boyfriend. You want him to be your dad. No. Okay. I'm talking about what was appealing, what drew unbelievable turnout in the fucking Senate primaries in Maine. Okay. When I say he's a great communicator, okay, that doesn't mean I like the guy. And that certainly doesn't mean I think he should be the senator, whether today or even before. Okay. It's very stupid because I've seen a lot of that happening on the timeline where people are like, oh, Hassan Piker said Graham Plattner's, comms is really fucking good. It is. It was. He won. It's so strange. What utility is there to deny that? In any case, that's a brief update on the Graham Plattner situation. Trump also fielded some questions where he talked about communism, apparently, in this press conference. So we're going back to Ankara. We're going back to NATO.
On communism, you've been issuing a wake-up call to Americans at home about the dangers of communism. And now you're speaking on the world stage. What's your message to people both living under communist and...
Like, again, the problem is that you dismissed the first accusation saying it wasn't credible. You're failing to realize that the first accusation you dismissed is not credible. When you lock someone in a room that is violent, that is a red flag you ignored. Yeah, I still don't think Lindsay Fifield is sincere. I'm going to be honest with you. That's crazy. Lindsay Fifield literally spent most of her political career denying bodily autonomy to women and denying credible rape allegations like the one that I recognize as a credible rape allegation against Graham Plattner when we were potentially discussing the appointment of Brett Kavanaugh, a person who had credible rape allegations that Lindsay Fifield worked as a political operative to deny, who then turned around, not only turned around and did that, but also Brett Kavanaugh turned around and denied bodily autonomy to 100 million plus women in this goddamn country. Okay? What I said at the time was if she had contemporaneous conversations and a credible rape allegation, it wouldn't matter if she's a Republican operative or not. The New York Times reporting on this, I stand by my analysis on the New York Times reporting on this. There will be reporting on how the New York Times actually botched their reporting on this to begin with. Just wait. This is not about like, oh, she's an imperfect victim, so I don't believe her. Paired up with the New York Times reporting that actually took Rasico's statements as a troublesome experience. Don't you feel like that's an entirely different type of report?
Socialist regimes, but also people living under democracies like in Europe and America.
Her hypocrisy isn't a good argument for the event not happening, and reflexive teaching for it as an excuse makes the environment for victims coming forward worse.
Who might not have realized how close communism has come to home.
Yeah,
Shut
that's
the
a great
fuck up,
question.
rape
actually, but
apologist,
look, I
horrible
want to get
take.
the word.
Okay, we're moving on from this. We're going back to the Trump NATO, the Trump NATO statements. Wish you'd ignore the chuds. Sometimes it's not chuds.
Because what's forming is communism in the country. And communism's easy to sell. I would be the greatest communist in history. I'd be right up there with Lenin. I'd be as good as anybody. You've got free rent for the rest of your life. What they don't say is that you'll be living in squalor in 12 months. You've got a free house. Would anybody like to have a free house? We'll take it away from somebody. We'll give it to you. You'll have murders all over the place. Communism's a disaster. It's been proven to be for thousands of years under different names, but same thing. It's very important. And, you know, it's funny. One of the reasons I do so well with Hispanic people, I set a record, Republicans. I get great numbers for the election, helped me get elected in a landslide. The Hispanics, because a lot of them came from countries that were essentially communist. You know, whether you call them radical socialist or communist is not that much, but there's a little difference. When they say social democrats, we're social democrats, it sounds so nice. It's not nice. It's a very dangerous term. So I do talk about it, and I talk about it on TikTok, and I talk about it everywhere. I talk about it here.
You talk about it on TikTok.
And you're right, it has become international, but it's never worked, and it's not going to work. What is working is the United States. So think of it, we have more jobs than we've ever had. People are making more money than they've ever made. I'm talking about workers now. I'm talking about workers. They're making higher salaries than they've ever made before. It's just the best system, and it's got flaws, but everything's going to have a little flaw, but it's been amazing. And when I watch what's happening, and I see these lowlifes getting, I mean, they're lowlifes. I watch them. I know good people. I know quality people. These are essentially lowlifes. And when I see what they're talking, I think they're very dangerous in many ways. And I've said it, and then I said, boy, that's a pretty big statement. Then I realized, you know, a couple of people said, I think you're probably right. I think this country, with this thing that's going around, is in more danger than it was during World War I, World War II. If you talk about September 11th, if you talk about Pearl Harbor, that was big danger. I think the concept of us going communist, because one thing that happens when you go communist, you never come back, never comes back. You die in squalor. You die a horrible death. You die in squalor, and it gets very evil and very nasty.
Great stuff, Mr. President. Thank you. MAGA communism is over. Well, I guess MAGA communists could be like, I could be a better communist than Lenin, and they agree with that. Meanwhile, while this conversation is taking place, new round of strikes against Iran ordered by Trump to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. says it is holding Iran accountable for what it calls unjustified aggression against commercial shipping and civilian crews. This is from CENTCOM. So back to the same tit for tat back and forth. Great.
Much of that money is being spent on American-made equipment. They all want American-made equipment. We're pushing very hard to have the defense companies, and they're great. We make the best equipment, the Patriots and the Tomahawks, and everything we have is considered to be the best. Not by me, it's everybody wants it. I wish we made it faster because we could sell as much as we could make. And as you know, I had Lockheed and every one of the companies, all of the companies who are Raytheon as an example, Boeing. So many of those great companies are now building plants. They had big plants, but they were using them 24/7. I said, that's not the way to do it. You have to build more plants. You don't have to just go overtime. No tax on overtime. Remember that, please? No tax on overtime. Those people are happy. But they were doing literally 24 hours to get the Tomahawks done and the Patriots done and all of the other defensive and offensive equipment done. It's the most sought after equipment in the world. You saw that with Venezuela, where they had a lot of great equipment. It wasn't ours, and it didn't work. Our equipment works, but we have to produce it faster for other countries. For everybody, including ourselves, we have to produce it faster. So we think within a year and a half max, we'll be, instead of waiting for a year or 2 years, we'll be having it on a 2-week wait, maybe a 1-week wait. That's what I want. And it'll do really well. A lot of people are, just waiting. They're waiting. They want to get this defensive equipment, maybe in particular the defensive equipment, but offensive and defense. As much of that money is being spent on American-made equipment. That's the money that the European and Canada are spending, European countries mostly, and Canada. And they're spending that with the United States, largely. And it's American-made, made in the USA, as we say. Weapons, munitions, supporting thousands of American jobs. This will increase.
Erdogan gave personalized revolvers to each of the leaders attending the NATO summit, along with live rounds of ammo. The Turkish president supplied export papers for each of the guns, which were inscribed with the name of their recipients. Starmer has not taken home the gun he was gifted, as it would be illegal to bring it to the UK, but left it behind for decommissioning. Dude, give it to me, bro. I'll take it. Free gun. That's also such a strange thing where it's like, here, use this to kill yourself. Like, it can, I don't know what it means symbolically. You know what I mean? Here's a free gun with bullets. I don't know. I find it odd.
We have the highest number of jobs. Right now, we have the most people working in the United States that we've ever had in the history of our country. We have the biggest investment ever made, $19.2 trillion. That's 6 times more than we've ever had. Think of it, 6 times more. And what did that were tariffs. Without the tariffs, I think we would have done fine, like at about 2 or 3. The last administration had much less than $1 trillion invested for 4 years. We have $19.2 trillion invested in 1 year. We haven't gone into the extra almost a half a year, 1.5 years. Those numbers won't come out for a little while. So we have 19.2 trillion, not billion, not million, trillion with a T, invested in plants and equipment that's being built all over the country. Eli Lilly is building plants, big drug, Merck, all of them. The drug companies are building. The car companies are building like crazy. In fact, as you probably saw a big announcement yesterday, Toyota is leaving Mexico, and they're going to build one of the biggest car manufacturing plants in the world in Texas. That's because of the tariffs, because we don't mind if you build in Mexico, but if you build in Mexico, you have to pay 25% tariff. If you build in Japan, or if you build in any place, now China is a much higher tariff. It's 100% tariff because we don't want to lose our jobs. We don't want to have our workers lose their jobs. We have the largest number of plants being built for the most money ever.
Brother, I don't want to sound alarmist, but with the NATO summit wrapping up with an emphasis on increased defense spending / increased Russian and Ukrainian tensions, renewed Iranian escalations, are we not inevitably heading down towards another world war? I mean, one could maybe make the argument that we already have this world war that's happening, right? I mean, there is war happening all around the world. America's at the site of all of that conflict. America's in the scene of the crime everywhere, but, who knows? But yeah, one thing is clear. De-escalation is not imminent. Russians obviously knew Trump approved giving Ukraine targeting intel for deep strikes on RU energy. Russia answered it this year by providing Iran targeting intel on U.S. bases, radars, and infrastructure. Iran defeated the U.S. Quite a brilliant trade-off. It was from senior fellow at FPRI, Rob Lee. from December, from the New York Times reporting, sorry. But in secret, the Central Intelligence Agency in the U.S. military, with his blessing, supercharged a Ukrainian campaign of drone strikes on Russian oil facilities and tankers to hobble Mr. Putin's war machine. Otherwise, obviously, America would be freaking the fuck out about Ukraine hitting critical Russian infrastructure, specifically for oil and gas. So clearly, the fact that they're not telling Ukraine to stand down implies that they were probably playing a role in the strikes. Which is, again, ironic because it increases the pressure on Trump to de-escalate. Because, again, the more Ukraine gains leverage by successfully striking critical Russian oil and gas infrastructure, okay, the more market volatility increases, the more Trump has to lean into a cessation of hostilities with Iran. Trump having no investment or interest in the Ukrainian war doesn't change the highest priority that Trump has, which is to fix the energy crisis. Okay? Do you guys understand? Every successful strike on Russian oil and gas infrastructure that gives Ukraine tremendous leverage over Russia, okay, that much is clear, also causes more market volatility. It's this very weird predicament that America's in, where on the one side, the more they give Ukraine bandwidth to strike oil and gas, the more critical it is that they stop the conflict in the Strait of Hormuz. So what do? These are contradictory goals. As the campaign began to show results, Mr. Ratcliffe discussed it with Mr. Trump. The president seemed to listen to him. They had a frequent Sunday tea time. God. According to U.S. officials, Mr. Trump praised America's surreptitious role in these blows to Russia's energy industry. They gave him deniability and leverage, he told Mr. Ratcliffe, as the Russian president continued to jerk him off. The energy strikes could come to cost the Russian economy as much as $75 million per day, according to one U.S. intelligence estimate. The CIA would also be authorized to assist with the Ukrainian drone strikes on shadow fleet vessels in the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Gas lines would start forming across Russia. This has been happening since the beginning of this month. As Financial Times also reported, Ukraine is striking Russian energy infrastructure at an unprecedented rate, according to the Financial Times data analysis showing that Kyiv's intensified drone campaign is spurring Russia's worst fuel crisis in decades. Analysts attribute the growing success of Ukraine's drone campaign to its ability to significantly increase production as well as improve management. American intelligence assistance has also played a role, aiding Kyiv in charting the best paths for its drones and helping to skirt air defenses, senior Ukrainian officials told the Financial Times. Since the beginning of 2026, Russian refineries have been hit at least 194 times, an 11-fold increase from the same period the previous year. I don't think the U.S. objective in energy costs, it is hegemony. In that case, the U.S. is trying to balkanize Russia and take over Iran makes complete sense. No, the United States, as the hegemonic superpower, has obviously the highest interest, the highest priority interest for the United States is to maintain and stabilize oil and gas prices. Okay? A complete collapse of the international order will happen if there is no more oil and gas. It will ruin everything. But at the same time, Ukraine's successive strikes on Russian oil and gas, the oil and gas infrastructure, has given Ukraine tremendous amounts of leverage. Please stop linking me fucking Mitch McConnell memes leaving the goddamn hospital. Okay, stop. It's wild how much of a blind spot we still have for what's happening with that war. These agitprop media sites fail to mention Ukraine is also taking exponentially worse losses and having its infrastructure decimated. But of course, they won't mention any of that. Yes, but again, Ukraine is suffering blows, certainly, as Russia has obviously increased the intensity of its civilian targeting, whether it be critical civilian infrastructure or whether it be like directly killing civilians. Having said that, however, Russia also has a lot to lose in this process, as opposed to in the past, where the Americans were not giving them appropriate targets to hit inside of Russia, and certainly telling them, I assume, not to hit oil and gas infrastructure.
In the history of our country, car plants, AI plants, and all other plants, pharmaceutical plants, chips, We're not giving anything. All we're saying is, if you don't start, we'll give them a year and a half to 2 years to build their plant. If they don't have that, they have to pay 100%, 200%, even 250%. If they make a chip, or if they make a car, if they make pharmaceuticals. So the pharmaceutical companies are moving in at record levels. There's never been anything like what's happening. Let me put it a different way, put it to you in a more broad fashion. There has never been anything like has happened with this country or any other country in the history of the world. There has never been growth. There's never been manufacturing plants being built. We have so many being built. And in the big ones, like AI, some of the AI, we let them build their own electric plants. We force them to build. We don't want it because the old grid that we have wouldn't be able to supply. They need, just as an industry, more energy than the entire country produces right now, when you think about it, which is incredible. So take all of the energy that the United States produces, and that one industry, which is so big, so powerful, it needs more than that. In fact, some people say almost double. So this was my idea. I said, you can never service that. You can't reinvigorate the grid. You can make it better, but nothing like that. You wouldn't be able to build. And we're leading China in AI, in just about everything. But we're leading China in AI. Even in TikTok, I was watching somebody say, oh, the TikTok deal, it's so bad well, because they say the deal was incredible, but they think the word that gets out is bad, except the numbers just came out, and I'm number one on TikTok, and all I do is talk about communism.
Oh, my God.
So it's sort of good. I used it to get elected, too. But, you have to get your word out. But the numbers came out just a little while ago, and I was number one. Some ridiculous number. I never heard of numbers like that, but number one. And all these entertainers are number 27, 29. It's crazy. I don't even understand myself. But
where the fuck did this come from, by the way? Where did this come from? Why is he rambling about, what is this? I haven't even seen this. Normally I keep up with all of Trump's latest fascinations, right? I don't even know where this number came from. Why is he? I'm a numbers guy. I don't see this number. I never saw this number, and I don't know where the Tic Tac decided Donald Trump is the number one guy. I'm a numbers guy, and Mr. President Donald Trump, I really like the number. I don't know where you got it, though.
That means that my word's getting out about how great our country is, how successful our country is, and how bad communism is, and how bad these lunatics are that are running for election that don't sound good, don't think good, and don't look good. I don't see any looker. I don't see anybody with the look. You need the look, I guess. You need something, but they don't have it. And I think they'll fade fast. And it's not social democrats. This is not a social democrat. These are communists that are running. And they don't want God. They don't want successful things to happen for our country. They don't want to have a successful country. I think they're sort of crazy. As European nations rebuild their militaries, American equipment will be the largest beneficiary. The defense companies are going to be making most of that equipment. They want the American equipment because it works better. It's not a question of anything else. We make the best equipment in the world. And to that end, I provided other leaders with an update on the steps we're taking to rapidly scale up production in the United States. And they wanted to hear that because they don't really want to get it in 4 years, 5 years. They want to get it in a week. And we'll actually be at a point like that in the not too distant future with the plants that are being built. The defense plants, it's incredible. Lockheed is building, I think, 5. Some of them are building 3, 4, or 5, and they're big ones. It's going to quadruple the output we have with the munitions and the basic equipment itself, whether it's a Patriot.
I know you like the number. Donald Trump keeps saying that he's number one on TikTok. The truth is that he doesn't even make it into the top 50. He has 16.6 million followers on TikTok. Well, Kabilame has 160 million, and Ashel Speeds has 53 million. Not sure why he's lying about the number. At the direction of the commander-in-chief, the U.S. Central Command Forces have started conducting additional... Yeah, we already covered this. I already covered this. Hey, herkes reis artık. Do you think he uses picture books in his speech notes? I mean, he definitely uses a teleprompter, I'm pretty sure, right? All right, let's skip. Oh, there was also this. Breaking news. Trump says Iran ceasefire is over and calls Iranian leaders scum. They're not holding their wives' hands. They're holding each other's hands. What the fuck? I got so uncomfortable from the photo. Yeah, they're gay lovers. Bro looks half dead. It's crazy. Erdogan is another one of those, despotic leaders that people that have to live under him routinely claim is on the verge of death or is like one medical incident away. It just doesn't happen. This is why I have a lot of experience with the Trump health scares, Macron living the dream, married to his elementary school sweetheart, his prior teacher. Okay, dude. What a strange... I mean, the Ankara summit has given us some very funny memes, very strange experiences overall. Yeah. Just like you and Moscow Mitch. Yeah, this is what I did to Moscow Mitch.
Everything is beautiful. And we've had some very good meetings, in particular with Turkey and trade, and now we're meeting with everybody today. As you know, we're going to have a very big meeting with lots of leaders from, I think, every country, right? Every country showed up,
They're all
every
there.
NATO country. Yeah. Plus, we have a couple that aren't in NATO that would like to be in NATO, I guess. But it's been very successful. It's been a fantastic meeting. So I'll be having a news conference after we're finished it at about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I assume most of you will attend. But a lot of things have been determined, and some things haven't, frankly. We attacked very powerfully last night the very dangerous people from Iran. They're sick. There's something wrong with them. We said, go and do your funeral stuff. And instead of that, they start shooting rockets at ships yesterday. And so we hit them very hard last night, very hard. I would say 20 to 1, 20 times tougher. And I told them, every time you hit, we hit. And of course, they're dirty players, so they go after everyone, probably including me. I've been number one on their list for years. And they're a bunch of scum, you want to know the truth. They're scum. And so we don't like them. I don't like them. And they're evil people, and it's the denuclearization of Iran.
It's just... Okay. I need people to understand something here, okay? Iran fought and won this tremendous leverage, which is the control over ships transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? Iran fought for it. Iran bled for it. Many Iranians died in the process. Tens of billions of dollars of damage Iran withstood in the process. There's just no way that they're going to magically allow the United States to now casually send ships through the Omani coastline. Okay, Lamau, what are you reading? I'm reading chat. What do you think I'm reading? So obviously they're not going to decide to throw that away. They're not going to magically throw that away, especially when the United States has come to the table for a potential long-standing cessation of hostilities. Okay? All the United States is doing in the process by sending ships off the Omani coastline is goading Iran to go back into the battle. What is gained through war cannot be lost through diplomacy. Yes. So whenever Donald Trump comes out and is like, oh, they're violating their treacherous scum, they're whatever, like what gets lost in this conversation is that the memorandum of understanding from the Iranian perspective also gave them control over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran basically said, look, we're going to allow all the ships to go through. They just have to go through on our side. They have to go through with our control over the Strait of Hormuz. For America, the biggest problem is allowing Iran to keep that leverage, allowing Iran to keep this very powerful tool, control over the Strait of Hormuz. So When they say, oh, Iran is actually violating the memorandum of understanding, they're scumbags, it's not true. Iran is not violating the memorandum of understanding. Iran is actually abiding by the conditions set forth within the memorandum of understanding by, trying to maintain their leverage. America doesn't want that leverage, so they're trying to sneak ships through the Omani coastline. That's the reason why Iran initially retaliated by striking some of these ships, right? They're just enforcing their side of the bargain.
And we're going to denuke it. We're not going to let them because they're crazy and they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they go around killing people. They've killed thousands and thousands of our soldiers. They've killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people.
Yeah, this was an interesting question, too. Paige says, last month you said Iranian leaders were very rational people, nice people to deal with, strong people, smart people. Today you said they were scum, sick people, and being led by sick people. What changed?
Mr. President, Tyler Pager with the New York Times. Last month you said Iranian leaders were very rational people, nice people to deal with, strong people, smart people. Today you said they were scum, sick people, and being led by...
Can we be honest that you're not qualified to give a professional opinion on what? On political commentary? How many years do you think I need to be doing this for you to assume that this is appropriate? If 13 is not enough, then I don't think you're ever going to say that my opinion is worth a damn, which is fine. You can just click out. Perhaps it's not my credentials that you are calling into question. It's that you don't like the things that you're hearing from me. So you're calling into question the credentials. Not a lot of people that do political commentary of this sort, especially on the internet, that have even remotely the credentials that I have, ironically enough, something that I don't usually bring up. Unlike my counterparts in this space, I at least graduated with a political science degree and a communication double major, ironically enough, again. Many of the people, especially on the opposing side, did not even graduate from college or ever graduate with a degree of this sort. They don't even try to make it seem like they know what they're talking about. Oftentimes they will say things like, who needs reading anyway? I can just use my imagination.
By sick people. What changed, and do you think they're...
I got to know them. So I've said that about a lot. Now, when you say rational, I think they're much more rational than level 1, level 2. Level 1 is gone, level 2 is gone. This is level 3. I think they are more rational, but based on their actions over the last week or two.
How can you say that? You have any qualification when you got no subs in hours? True. Please subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service, the People's Broadcasting Service. It's the only way to support independent media, by subscribing. No ads. Subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service for tomorrow's news today.
They're not doing a service to the people. And I think more than anything else is I got to know them. And I'm not sure I want to make a deal with them. We can play games, but I'm not sure I want to make a deal. I just finished the job. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm the second largest political commentator on this platform that we're on, one of the largest in North America, the largest left content creator, the largest left political commentator on the independent media side. Here is the largest on this platform. He just happens to be right-wing. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Did you ever read Atlas Shrugged? No, I don't really read books. It's a waste of time. I just invent my own narratives in my mind, and I just build everything off of my own fantasies.
I know he's trying to be sarcastic, but it is quite literally what he does.
I just make everything up.
You're class 4 obese.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't joke about this when you have also said it sincerely in the past. And we've also heard your commentary. Dude likes sarcasm skills. No, I know he's trying to say this sarcastically, but he's also said it sincerely. You know what I mean? If you've said it sincerely in the past, You can't just sarcastically claim it now because it just comes across as you saying it sincerely.
You're class 4 obese.
Yeah, thanks.
Also, for you to say this sarcastically, you would also had to have, shown at other times that you know what you're talking about. Trump ağzının tadını biliyor. Michelin starred chef Fatih Tutak, who prepared the NATO summit dinner menu. Donald Trump liked the braised beef ribs and eggplant puree the most and asked for the recipe to have it added to the White House menu. Trump ağzının tadını biliyor. Aynen. Eyvallah. Turks on top. Turks on top. Oh, yeah. Here is him saying it sincerely and not with a shred of irony or sarcasm. Here it
You
is.
openly admitted you never do research or read articles outside of Twitter. How can you shamelessly tell others to read more? I don't need to understand whatever article you want me to read. All I need to understand is human psychology and incentives. And incentives and human psychology are the deciding factors of how people will behave. I don't need to read your little special book or your Wikipedia article or anything else besides that. None of that stuff matters. What matters fundamentally is how do people act, how do people think, and how do people respond to incentives. If you can understand that, then nothing else matters. It's pretty simple. You openly admitted you never do research or read.
He's a Jiangist. Yeah, he's a Professor Jiangist. Professor Chung. Yeah, he also uses a lot of grok to fill the holes that he has, I guess, in his brain.
Roadside bomb, Soleimani. I took care of him first term. And that was a big thing. I think it probably would be a lot stronger had he been around because he was a bad guy, but he was an evil genius, but a bad guy. And he was the father of the roadside bomb. The roadside bomb is a bomb that goes on when you're driving your little vehicle around, and it goes on and you have no legs, no arms, and no face. And they've killed thousands and thousands of people. Even the SS Cole was theirs, if you remember that disaster. So I don't like them at all. And frankly, I think we waste a lot of time with them. I think we should just do our business. Can you imagine? They start shooting bombs, actually missiles at ships yesterday. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, a couple of others. And I don't think they know what the hell they're doing, but they're bad people, very bad people. I think they're incompetent, by the way. Because if they were competent, they would have made a deal a long time ago, like, how about 47 years ago? So they've been in trouble for 47 years, and we took out their first set of leaders, we took out their second set of leaders. They want to take out the U.S. leader, me. I'm on every list. I saw a thing this morning, I'm on every single one of their lists. And so far, I guess I've been a little bit lucky, but that maybe doesn't last very long because that's the way it goes. But we have great people. But these are evil, sick people, and we have to rid their cancer. Their cancer. And you know what you do? You got to cut out cancer early. Man, that's the way I feel. And I want to thank Mark. He's been a great Secretary General of NATO. I'm not happy with NATO because of what they did with Greenland. And I'm not happy with NATO because of the fact that they didn't want to help us with the #1 state sponsor of terror, that's Iran. They were unwilling to help us. Now, in all fairness, I didn't speak to Mark about it. I think if I did, it might have been different, but we didn't need help. But I was really testing. I wanted to see whether or not they'd be there. And the answer is they were. I spoke to Germany, I spoke to France, spoke to UK, spoke to Italy, I didn't speak to Spain. Spain is a wasted cause. We don't want to do any trade business with Spain anymore, by the way. I'd like you to cut it off. Spain is a terrible partner in NATO. They don't participate, they don't pay. I don't want anything to do with Spain. Cut off all trade with Spain, please.
Saying that. Cut off all trade with Spain, please. Like, he genuinely thinks he's a king, I think. Do it now. Cut it off. No more tapas, okay? I go to a restaurant. What the hell is a tapas anyway? It's more expensive, for tiny plates. Who the hell do you think you are? Cut it off. We're done with that. Big plates only. No more tiny portions. I don't like it. This is food for ants. Finger foods.
Including visits. Okay, we don't want anything to do. Watch them come running back. Oh, they'll come running back. They treat this man terribly. And this man's a good man, too. Great man. They're lucky they have him. But Spain...
God, I've never seen someone reduce themselves so much, so publicly, debase themselves. What a humiliating, spineless piece of shit Mark Rutte is. Dude sitting across from him is just fucking lighting the entire planet on fire. And he just sits there and goes, nope, that is daddy. That's daddy. Oh, thank you for saying I'm good. Daddy, have I done well by you, daddy?
doesn't agree to anything. And you shouldn't carry him. I mean, you sort of automatically carry because you're protecting an area, so they're there. So they probably figured they have to protect us, right? But we don't have to. We don't have to trade with them. I don't want to do any more trade with them. All right? Yes, take it immediately. Don't even talk to them. They're hopeless.
Don't even talk to them. Don't even listen to them if we're doing trade or not with them. If they say we are, that's a lie. It's over.
Because, you know, they have everybody else going and paying and working. In Spain, in particular Spain, there are a couple of others, but in particular Spain, they're open about it. They're hostile about it. And let's see how hostile they remain when they call up and they, please, please, we want to trade with you, sir. We want to trade with you, sir. They make so much money with us, and we're going to see that they make a lot less. I want no business with them. So, other than that, we're having the big meeting in a little while, and I'm going to relate my problems. Greenland is a big problem for us, and the other big problem is the fact that when we wanted them, we didn't want them badly, but we did say, if you want to join us, and they all said no. But when they could have, they weren't there for us. And we've been there for them. We spent over $1 trillion over the last short period, $1 trillion, in order to protect these countries from Russia. And has nothing to do with us. We have an ocean, but it's been a long-term thing, and they haven't treated us right. And Mark understands that. He understands that. And we're going to work something out, I think, one way or the other. But we've been treated unfairly. We pay disproportionately. We had a time when we were paying 100%. We were paying 100% of NATO, and yet a lot of the countries weren't paying anything. But there was calls made a few weeks ago. I spoke with UK, and the Prime Minister said, well, we don't want to help you now, but we'll help you when the war's over. I said, that's not good. And likewise, I spoke to Germany. They didn't want to help. Spoke to France. They didn't want to help. Nobody wanted to help. Some of the very small countries want to help because they're the most vulnerable. I mean, that's the only reason they want to help. So I appreciate you being here. We're going to be going back together, many of us together. And again, I want to say, despite the fact that I'm very upset with NATO, that we pay far, far too much, billions and billions of dollars too much, because it's unfair, because we're protecting them.
I like that he went on to this NATO summit to be like, I'm taking back Greenland. NATO still sucks dick and balls. All of you need to keep giving more money to NATO. Like, it's just, but we've gotten so used to him doing this every single time that it's not even like seen as a disaster at this point. You know? It's no longer even like a disastrous NATO summit. It's just another NATO summit. Awesome. Meanwhile, yes, this fucking spineless little cretin, Mark Rutte, who calls Trump daddy, got a fucking lashing from a Danish reporter. He asked, you sit next to Donald Trump at moments when he talks about conquering Greenland, talks about lashing out at allies like Spain, things it doesn't seem like the old Mark Rutte would approve of. Does this have any effect on your self-respect when you sit there and say nothing?
Now that allies like Spain starting trade wars, things that it doesn't seem like the old Mark Rutte would approve of. Does this have any effect on your self-respect when you sit next to him like that and say nothing?
You know, what I always do is acknowledge when praise is due, and I think
awesome. Yeah. No, what can you even say to that question? The question is not even a question, it's an ass whooping.
I think we should praise Donald Trump for the fact that NATO is so much stronger. Of course, it has to do with the Russian threat, it has to do with the war in Ukraine, but it very much also has to do with President Trump delivering now what since Eisenhower the United States tried to achieve, equalizing spending between the US and Europe. And it makes Europe stronger. It makes Europe more relevant for the United States as a partner. So that is the transformative character of this summit, of what happened in The Hague, the implementation since The Hague, this summit as a point in time where we take stock. And I think that is extremely important. And when it comes to Greenland, I already explained. We had a meeting in Davos. And I said, I agree with you when it comes to Russia, when it comes to China, gaining access to the High North. But let's do this together. We have NATO for this. Let's work together on this. This is exactly what we are doing.
Okay, we have very...
EU is just America orbiter and Iran is a snarker. Am I understanding politics? Yes, you've nailed it. You've nailed it. Thank you. He did another press briefing with Syrian President Al-Jalani, and he said he will be informing Congress he will be removing Syria from the state-sponsored terror list. Yeah, I saw that.
So we protect them, but they're not there for us. Think of it. Doesn't work. But I want to say this is a great leader. They're lucky they have him.
OMG, it's Hassan the Savior, the Messiah, the one to save the world from communism, T, propaganda, fascism, socialism, and shocking his dog XD. It's awesome. Thank you.
It's their biggest asset. You want to know that?
I don't even know what
So,
T propaganda
Mark,
is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. President, dear Donald. Let me start with Iran. We discussed it last night.
Dude, my my haters have gotten significantly dumber. They were always pretty stupid, but as the years have gone by, I don't know what happened, but like they've just gotten stupider and stupider. I don't know how. It's incredible.
At the presidential palace, I think what you did, degrading the nuclear capability, crucial for Israel, the region, for Europe, degrading the ballistic missile capability of Iran, crucial for Israel, for the region, for Europe.
Yeah, he straight up, he just sat there. He sat there and was like, it is so good that you are destroying Iran and its ballistic missiles capability. Everyone here, including Donald Trump, knows that that's not what happened, right? Like, that didn't happen. That did not happen. We know that it didn't happen. Mainstream reporting on it shows that that did not happen. And one of the best pieces of evidence for why it did not happen is the fact that Iran kept fucking striking Israel until they were like, okay, let's just stop doing that. Please. And not only that, but NATO's position currently and the European allies' position currently is please follow through on the memorandum of understanding and end this war, because it's leading to energy market collapse. None of this is beneficial for Europe. The continuation of the war is not beneficial for Europe in any meaningful capacity. And yet Mark Rutte has to sit there and be like, no, this is great. This is awesome. Thank you for degrading the ballistic missiles, the ballistic munition striking capability of Iran. That's why things were looking up when he did the Palace Versailles signature. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Look at this. Look. They asked him, what is your reaction to the recent U.S. attacks on Iran? NATO's Rutte, I think it was absolutely necessary. Iran is violating the ceasefire.
Yes, sir.
What is your reaction on the recent U.S. attacks on Iran, and why don't you fear that this will overshadow this summit?
Well, I think it was absolutely necessary, because when you have a ceasefire and Iran is basically violating the ceasefire, we see what happened yesterday with ships being attacked, I think it is totally crucial that the U.S. forcefully reacts. Yes, sir.
What is your reaction on the...
Oh my God. Drone production for Russia is being cooked is one good thing I'd say, but I don't know beyond that. Russia has its own drone productions, I thought. No, I don't even think that they rely on Iranian drone facilities any longer. Do they?
For the whole world. And then trying to bring this to a peaceful end. They attacking ships yesterday. I think what you did last night was absolutely necessary. It was a very strong response.
He's so full of shit. What about when Israel ignores a ceasefire? No, that's good. He loves when Israel ignores ceasefires. Are you kidding me? Anyway, there's more from the NATO summit. Trump says Ukraine's escalation inside of Russia could help end the war.
On occasion, by phone. We had a great talk the other day, I think, very positive. And I think we have some very good stories to tell, what's going on. He wants to see a settlement, and I think President Putin wants to see a settlement. And usually that means a settlement, but who knows, this is a tough one. But I just, we just had our NATO meeting, and it was a great meeting.
Yeah, see, pretty much all drones used in Ukraine are produced in Russia now. Russia to produce over 32,000 drones each year by 2030, TASS reports. Yeah, they're no longer drop shipping Shaheds like they were initially.
Probably heard it was a great meeting. There was a lot of love in that room. A lot of unity. And I don't think it could have been, Marco, what do you think? It couldn't have gone much better. Do you have a feeling as to what you just saw?
Very positive. A lot of unity, strength in that meeting.
Yeah, really good. Scott, what do you think?
Yes, sir. All the Europeans, they contributed you to saving NATO, and they want to do what they're supposed to do and do the right thing.
Yeah, there was something very special. And I will say that what they've done with Turkey and President Erdogan has been a friend of mine. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. Strong man, good man, and he's done a fantastic job. Every road is so.
That article's from January 2024, lol. Yeah, all the way back in January 2024, they were already changing their production away from their reliance on Iran. Am I wrong? I mean, I might be wrong. I was under the assumption that they were utilizing Iranian Shahed drones, but they swapped over to their indigenous domestic manufacturing. And I could be totally wrong on this, but that's what I thought was going on. Yes, you are wrong. If you have a better article on this stuff, I'd love to look at it. Not saying that they haven't used Shaheds, but they're producing the Shaheds on their own now rather than getting it from Iran. Am I wrong about this? This is what I thought was going on. I could be. Russia lifts lid on secretive drone factory as satellite images reveal rapid expansion at key site. This is from 2025. Yeah, see, they're making Shahed drones at their own facilities now. I don't know why I can't fucking see this article. God damn it. Here's another one. How China supercharged Putin's drone factories. Moscow is ramping up production of its giant arms complex fueled by components from Beijing and Tatarstan. You are correct. Their domestic product Shahed is called the Garen 2. I think they're very confused on what now? You just said two things. Ukraine importing from Russia and about Iran. Wait, what? Ukraine? No, I think you misunderstood my point. My point was Russia initially got a lot of drones from Iran, Shahed drones. Then they ramped up Russia, not Ukraine. Why the fuck would Ukraine get drones from Iran? What are you talking about? Yes, that's what I was confused about. Did I misspeak? If you rewind, if you subscribe, you can rewind. No, I never intended to say that Ukraine gets drones from Iran. No, I'm talking about Russia. I probably said Russian drones used in Ukraine, and then you misheard me.
Everything's perfect. From the airport to the destination, everything's been perfect. So we had a really good meeting. And we thought this would be a good time.
Yeah, when I said majority of drones being used in Ukraine by Russia, okay, that's where the misunderstanding comes from. I said drones, the majority of the drones used in Ukraine, when I'm talking about by Russia, like the drones being deployed in Ukraine by Russia, are now Russian manufactured.
Time for President Zelensky and I to meet, and we'll see what we can do. But we've actually developed a good relationship. It's hard to believe, right? From the Oval Office to now, I think we've developed a very good relationship. And
this is not the end.
No, this is not. This is going to be the beginning, maybe.
Yeah.
Just the beginning. And you know, the country has a lot of future. It has such great land, such great assets, such great people. And you have a lot of people. I was with a group in Poland, and you have a lot of people in Poland, and which is a terrific country with a really great president. I happen to endorse him, so, and he's doing a very good job. And they were saying they love Poland, but they really want to go back. You know, you're going to get a lot of people back when this is over. They left some, and they're all. I think they're going to come back.
Is this the Zaluzhny article? The one that you just linked me, Chatter? The one that says that the European estimates on like Ukraine's successes are overestimating Ukraine's capabilities. There's still a lot more need from NATO. Yeah. Oh, it is the Zaluzhny article. Yes. Valery Zaluzhny reports, the ambassador to Ukraine in the United Kingdom, reports on the Telegraph. It says, do not assume Russia has lost the war. Modern warfare no longer rewards tactical victories the way it once did. The article basically talks about Ukraine's successful strikes on logistics and how much leverage the attacks on critical infrastructure gave Ukraine, something that I've acknowledged, and the steady erosion of Russia's military position as evidence that the conflict is approaching its end. That is a dangerous misreading of the war. It reflects a tendency to interpret events through the lens of individual battlefield successes rather than the wider strategic picture. Modern warfare no longer rewards tactical victories in the way that it once did. Advances in drone technology, precision strike capabilities, and surveillance have transformed the battlefield, making decisive breakthroughs extraordinarily difficult for either side. Saying the Zaluzhny piece basically ends with, Russia is better positioned to win the long-term war, better positioned to withstand the war of attrition as opposed to Ukraine. This is no longer a war of swift maneuvers, it's a war of attrition. Every tactical gain now comes at an extraordinary cost. Positions can be taken, but holding them, reinforcing them, and evacuating the wounded has become increasingly difficult under constant drone surveillance. Success on the battlefield is measured in meters rather than miles, and often at a price that bears little relation to its strategic value. The same is true beyond the front line. Ukraine's increasingly effective strikes against Russian logistics and critical infrastructure. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Impose real costs on Moscow, but these attacks are expensive, technologically demanding, and ultimately reciprocal. Russia retains the ability to strike back with equal or greater force. Neither side can rely on this form of warfare to produce a decisive strategic outcome. The battlefield has therefore reached something close to equilibrium. Russia lacks the military capacity to conquer Ukraine outright. Equally, Ukraine does not currently possess the means to liberate all occupied territory by force alone. The military balance has become one of mutual denial. Can you give me chopsticks and the sauces? Yeah, the Asian sauces, though. If the measure is whether the Kremlin achieved its original political objectives, then it clearly is not. Bros casually delivery come inside his office? No. It's so stupid. Yeah, I just opened all the doors. You can just like walk right into my home, dude. What are you, fucking nuts? How come a Ukrainian ambassador is openly saying this? Doesn't this essentially admit that Ukraine is more cooked than the Western press says? I mean, he's saying this because he wants more support. Yeah, not that one. No, those ones. Yeah, thank you. It's fine. The reason why he's saying this is because in order for Ukraine to win, like Ukraine's territorial, I mean, not territorial, but like Ukraine's is a call to action. It's a demand from NATO to do more, to seize victory here. That's what's going on.
A big percentage are going to come back. So we're going to have a good talk, and we're going to see how it all goes. And Mr. President, would you like to say something?
Thanks so much, Mr. President. Thank you very much for this meeting, and we are very thankful, as always, to your support, American support, bipartisan support. Thanks for the invitation to this summit, and I think that I agree with you. We have a lot what to discuss and what to speak about, and of course we are thankful for the Pearl program. and we want to share with you some details what we want to raise during our meeting. Air defense is the priority. The second point, or maybe the first, about negotiations. I think, yes, we understand what to do. It's our estimation what to do, how to bring peace, and I hope that we will do. I'm sure that we will do everything to stop this war. Yeah, and I'm very happy that our side began to work on drone deal, and it's very good beginning. And I hope that today I will have possibility to also to discuss with you some very important details. Thank you so much.
Well, we've settled a lot of wars, and this one is the one that I thought maybe would be the easiest. But Putin's a difficult character, and this guy's a difficult character. It's not the easiest thing, and there's a lot of commitment, and there's a lot of love of the countries and everything else. But I think we've made a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks, and we'll see how it all goes. So, do you have any questions?
President Trump, sir. President Trump. President Trump.
With the Iran ceasefire,
they are behaving very badly, as they have for 47 years. And, you know, we hit them hard last night after they launched a couple of, you don't have to know about this, you got stuff on your mind, but they launched a couple of drones and one rocket, one missile, and at ships, because they were in the strait, which they have every right to be. And so we hit them very hard last night, very, very hard. Probably hit them hard again tonight. I'll give them a little warning, we're going to hit them hard tonight. But we'll see how it all works out. No, I'm not happy with them. You know, it's like, for instance, we'll have a meeting and we'll talk about the denuclearization of Iran, because that's what the war is. It's not a war. It's really the denuclearization of Iran.
Iran proliferating. Breaking. Iranian lawmakers have discussed raising uranium enrichment to 90% weapons grade level as a potential option if the U.S. and Israel attack again, per TASS. This follows Iranian Parliament National Security Commission spokesperson Ebrahim Rezai's warning that Iran has many options not used during the recent 40-day war, including NPT withdrawal, nuclear doctrine shift, and closure of both strategic straits, the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb. A parliamentary plan for full NPT withdrawal is already ready for review. If Iran faces an existential threat, modifying the nuclear doctrine could also be put on the agenda. They're moving into the Hasanabi doctrine stage.
And we'll have a meeting and we'll talk about just that. Because my whole thing is not about regime change. It's not about, although I think it's regime change when you knock out the first group, the second group, and now you're at the, I think that's maybe the ultimate regime change. But that's not what it's about. It's about, we don't want them to have nuclear weapons. And it's denuking or denuclearization. And I think we've made a lot of progress. And they'll get out of the room. We'll talk about it like we're here. They'll agree on everything, and then they'll go and have a news conference and say, we never even talked about it. They're cuckoo. There's something wrong with these people. And for 47 years, they've been the bully of the Middle East, and they're not the bully anymore. They're not the bully anymore. And all we want, it's very simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. That's what I'm there for.
President Trump, sir. President Trump.
If they did, they'd use it, and we're not going to let that
President Trump, sir.
Daniel?
You've made a career making deals in very challenging situations. Speaking to President Zelensky, speaking to President Putin, in your view, sir, what is the most pragmatic pathway forward to finding a long-term peace deal?
I just think they're going to make a deal. Look, this deal has been in the works for a long time. It's got the pluses, the minuses. They know what it is. He knows what it is better than anybody. And I just think it's sometimes, you know, I used an analogy, and it sounds simple, but it's sort of true. You have two kids in a park, and they don't like each other, and they start fighting. Sometimes you have to let them fight, let them see that it's tough. You know, it's tough. Fighting is tough. And he's done an amazing job. Look, he's been very effective. Now he's had.
I mean, this is partially the reason. This is partially how you can tell. Since the strikes on oil refineries and shit, like, there has been a lot more leverage for Ukraine because Trump is now talking about Ukraine positively. You know what I mean? At least they've been able to make a convincing case to Trump that Ukraine has, has charted some gains here.
The best equipment because he's had our equipment, and he's had great. But somebody has to use that equipment, and you have a lot of brave people that are using that equipment. And Russia, it's a big country, but it's a big force. Russia's always been a big fighting force, so it's. But I really believe it's ready. It's very interesting because you'd almost say it's worse than ever, and maybe it isn't. Sometimes with war, and you study war, and I've studied it so long, for years, long before I did this, sometimes it's when it gets the worst.
Definitely. Donald Trump definitely studied war long before he became president.
And I don't know that it's the worst right now. It's consistently bad. They lost 25,000 people were lost, kids, young people, last month. And we had a month, 35, 2 months ago. And I would say more Russians. But it's just, they're people. They're people. And there's actually very little difference between the people. I mean, it's like the Russians and Ukrainian people. And they can get along. But it's a nasty war. Thousands and thousands, mostly soldiers, are being killed. The battlefields, I see pictures and it's horrible. He thinks it's horrible. We all think it's horrible. And the president wants to get it done, and I believe that President Putin wants to get it done, and that should be a good combination. Thank you.
Mr. President, what is your assessment on Ukraine's strike on Russian oil refineries and military factories?
Where are you from?
Ukraine.
Come on, they're the same people.
Phrase the question differently.
Stop fighting.
Ukraine deliver strikes
He's
on
like,
Russian
just as my
military
best friend
factories
Vladimir
and,
Putin says. Just as my best friend Vladimir Putin says, you guys are the same people. Why are you fighting? Just give it up. I don't understand it. Why fight? You say Kiev. You say Kiev. He says Kiev. Who gives a damn? It's chicken Kiev. Same language.
Refineries, and they ran out of gas.
Marco, why don't you answer that? Because you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, no, I think what you're discussing is the ability of Ukraine to reach deep inside of Russia and conduct strikes. Sure. I think that's one of the dynamics that's changed in this war over the last few months, and that is that Russians are finding it more difficult to defend their own airspace. And what we hope that means is that it's going to create the space now to negotiate the end of this war.
It's an escalation, but it's also an escalation that can help lead to an end. And,
Mr. President, I'd be seeking for the settlement.
So where are you from?
Radio Free Europe's Ukrainian service. I'm from Ukraine.
Okay, good. Because I talked to him. I talked to President Zelensky, and I think...
He's like, Margot, didn't we cut her funding? Margot, why does she have funding still? I don't understand it.
That's all I've done. My whole life I made deals. I guess becoming president was making a deal, right? It was like a lot of little individual things. In the end, it's making a deal. And that's what I do. And I do it well, and I know when people want to make a deal. I think he wants to make a deal. And I do feel that President Zelensky would like to get back to rebuilding
Remember when he
his
said
country
this like 158 times in the first month of his presidency? When he brought Zelensky up to be like, you fucking piece of shit, why don't you say thank you? That was awesome.
Having all of this death and destruction. Ukraine has tremendous potential. He understands that. We talk about that. He talks about that more than he talks about the war. To me, I think you might find that more exciting than the war. It's brutal. The other's the beauty of it, I think he'll build a great country. I think he's going to build it. We have a little stake in that country now because we have some land in that country, but we have minerals. It's among the wealthiest, it's among the best land anywhere in the world for rare earth. And
Mr. President, Russia is bombing my
we have some rare earth. I look forward to taking advantage of it at the right time. Mr. President, one of my favorite soldiers. I see him. He's central casting. You, right? You doing okay?
Yes, sir.
We see him at meetings. He's good. He's done a great job. Great job.
Trying to do our best.
Yeah, great hero, actually.
Mr. President, will you allow Europe to make Patriot interceptors in Europe? Are you comfortable with licensing that technology?
About what?
Patriot interceptors to be made in Europe.
And you're talking with respect to Ukraine. Well, we're going to talk about that. You know, look, it's a defensive weapon, which I like, better than an offensive weapon. It's the best. So I was saying we have an aircraft carrier, which is one of the most beautiful in the world. It's one of the biggest, the Abraham Lincoln. And 2 months ago, we had 100, I told this story yesterday, we had 111 missiles shot by the Islamic Republic of Japan. They were shot at the aircraft carrier over a period of about 1 hour.
What? Nani? Wakarimashita. Trump-sama. Islamic Republic of Japan? Orura. Dude, imagine trying to... How the fuck do you say mashallah in Japanese? Oh my God. That's... I don't even know how you would say mashallah. I love this. This is real for me. The Islamic Republic of Japan is real. Japanese Muslim guy trying to say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim unironically is like a Nick Mullen bit. Incredible.
111 missiles going to a very expensive ship, and every one of those missiles was knocked down. Pretty much most by Patriots, but by other means also, as you know. Yeah. Other less expensive means. It's even better when you do that. But out of the 111 missiles, every one of them was shot down. It didn't hit the ship, and you know, bad things happen, right, when that happens. So think of that, over a period of 1 hour, these missiles are coming at you, and every one of them shot down. So I think one of the things we're going to be talking about is, as you know, the companies, we have great power over the companies. Those companies that make the Patriot and make all of the great stuff, the Tomahawks, all of the great stuff. We have the best stuff. Many things. The Patriot's great, but we have many, many great things. You see that with Venezuela. You see it with Iran. Look, Iran has been wiped out. Iran, their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, everything's gone. But one of the things I think we're going to be talking about today, a little birdie told me this, about the fact that we'll give them the right to make Patriots. We'll show them how to do it. It's very complex, actually, but it's you'll figure out the complexity quickly. And we're talking about that, and the company that makes them, which is building now 4 plants, you know, all of our companies will be able to do this in 2 to 3 months. If you order a Patriot, now you have to wait a long time for them. Same thing with Tomahawks. We have a lot of certain equipment, but with they call it the elite equipment, and you don't need elite equipment necessarily for a war. But so one of the things we're going to be talking about is we're going to give a license to you to make Patriots. That's pretty cool, right? This way you can't complain that we're not giving them enough. I say make them yourself. We haven't informed the company of that yet, but that'll work out all right. You know, I'm sure they'll be thrilled. But you know, they'll be able to do it. You'll be able to figure that out. Most countries couldn't do that. No. If I said that to most countries, they wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But this is a very ingenious group. And what I like about that, it's a defensive situation as opposed to an offensive. But I think one of the things you might want to be talking about is that. That's what I heard. Little birdie told me that.
President, on Iran, can you clarify, does the end of the ceasefire mean that we are back to a full-scale military conflict?
Look, they violate the agreement every day. They lie, they cheat, they kill people. They've been killing people for 47 years. They knocked out the SS Cole. We lost, what, 200 people more? That was a long time ago. For 47 years, no president did anything about that. Well, Obama actually gave them vast amounts of money. You'd like this. He gave them a plane load of money, $1.7 billion in green cash. They loaded up a Boeing 757. Remember the old 750? It was a beautiful plane loaded up with cash. They took all the seats out. And they took all of the cash from Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. banks. They had no money. They took every ounce of cash, put it in, flew it to Iran, and gave them the money. I wonder what these guys thought of when the door opened and cash fell out of this big plane, beautiful plane. And then on top of that, they gave them billions and billions of dollars. And by the way, they gave it to the wrong country, frankly. You want to know the truth. And it began. That was pretty much the Obama deal. That was one of the worst tragedies that happened. That's what happened in the Middle East. That deal set back that whole situation. They went with it. Frankly, they picked the wrong country. They picked the wrong country. POC. What a terrible deal. I call it the Obama nuclear waste deal.
JCPOC? What? Oh my God. Jesus Christ. People of color. That's what I call it. Jesus Christ. Peace. I don't, I don't even know. What would it be? Piece of crap. Oh, POC. Piece of crap.
Because what he did with that deal is he caused tremendous hardship in the Middle East. It was a terrible, terrible thing to do. And we've been just the opposite. Our deal is a wall to a nuclear weapon. His deal was a road to a nuclear weapon. They'll never build a nuclear weapon under our deal. But I don't know if we're going to have a deal. We may just do it without a deal. Because you know what? It's easier. Because these people, they lie and they cheat, and you have an agreement, and they'll go outside. For instance, they agreed, well, we'll never have a nuclear weapon. They agreed. Then they go outside, they have a news conference, where they leak that we never discussed the subject. Now, who would believe we never discussed the subject? Because for me, that's 99.9% of what we're doing. It's denuclearization of Iran, okay? So when you ask, our guys can continue. You know, Steve is great, and Jared, and all the guys. They know him very well. Yeah, actually, they're working on your stuff, too. I wonder which. I picked two beauties. You know what? We settled 8 wars. I got a couple of beauties here. But Steve's great, and Jared's great. You know, they're the right guys. And we'll see what happens. But I will say this. Iran, they've misbehaved for 47 years. They've killed our soldiers, they've killed our people, and they've killed a lot of people all over the Middle East and elsewhere. And the roadside bomb was their preferred,
I can't deal with the fact that, like, no one will dispute this, but the JCPOA was successful. If the goal was to stop Iranian uranium enrichment, it was the most successful instance of foreign policy and diplomacy that Obama engaged in. It's so crazy that he came in and was mad, or not. He wasn't even mad necessarily. He just came in and as Israel's slave, pretty much, ripped that shit apart. Because there was only one party that didn't want it. It was Israel. And then took it one step further and finally attacked Iran militarily. It's just so terrible. The world's fate hangs on this man's hands.
Preferred weapon was by Soleimani, the roadside bomb, where it would explode under a truck. We actually built trucks with floors, steel this thick. And then all they did was they made bigger bombs. And we have young guys around, not walking around because they have no legs, but their legs were blown off, their arms were blown off, their face was blown off, and they live because of modern medicine. You can do anything, but they're living like in hell. Their whole life changed because of Iran. And that was 96% of the people that used that, they were made in Iran. And so we have a score to settle too.
It's pretty wild how little Iran has done stuff to us. and we have for the most part. A lot of people don't know this. I mean, I'm sure you're in this community, so you've heard me say this before, but Iran was an ally post 9/11. Iran was actually consistently an ally in the global war on terror. And what's really interesting about this is like the only time when there was like a little bit of friction was in Iraq with the Shia population, but that's pretty much it. Outside of that, Iran gave the United States targets to bomb for Al-Qaeda, for all these other like Salafist groups. Iran mourned the losses of America during 9/11, like right after 9/11. Iran was shocked when the Acts of Evil speech came out and they were mentioned as a part of the enemies that were responsible for 9/11 because like it doesn't make any sense because like they thought from their perspective, it's like, oh, Saudi Arabia did this. Who's our biggest enemy? Saudi Arabia. Great. You know, time to fucking roll up your sleeves and get to work. America took Iran's biggest ops in the region, like Saddam Hussein and Saudi Arabia, and we're like, you guys are all the same. How crazy is that? That's got to be like the highest profile racist policy of all time. And people just ate that shit up. And they still believe it. They're like, oh, Iran, Iraq, what's the difference? They're all ISIS. Mind-boggling. Yeah, America did the slop tuber special. Incredible.
Ready to finish this war. What if he doesn't? Are you ready to put pressure on Russia? Are you ready to
Well, we
put
have a
more
lot of
sanctions?
pressure. We have a lot of pressure on President Putin. You know, I don't think he likes what's going on. I don't think he's thrilled with what's happening. There's a lot of pressure on President Putin to get it done. I think there's pressure on everybody to get that one done. A lot of pressure.
Mr. President, what's your security guarantee for Ukraine?
The guarantee?
Yeah, security guarantee for
The
Ukraine.
security guarantee you're talking about? I mean, not that we want to do it. We'll do it to save lives. Look, Ukraine's very far away. We have an ocean separating us. What I'm doing is I'm trying to save lives. A lot of lives are being lost. I also think that it's a country with great potential. I think if this kind of brain power can go toward rebuilding the country instead of fighting a war, I think it's going to do. I think that.
My man took the long way home to go, nothing. There's your answer. He's like, oh, security guarantees. Well, Ukraine, you guys are a beautiful country.
Country's going to do fantastically well. And likewise, Russia, look, they're devoting a lot of energy. A lot of energy. Do you have a question for President Putin, please? Do you have a question for
President Putin?
President Putin, not Zelensky. Yeah, what would you like to ask him? Because I'm going to ask him that question.
I have a question. Last year you called Russia.
Safe. No, he saved it. He did the Biden thing, but then he saved it. Sorry, libtards. He saved it. He played it off so cool. Nice save, Mr. President. Thank you. You got a question for President Putin? For President Putin, I'm not Zelensky. I'll ask him for you. He ain't saved shit. Yeah, he did not.
Russia a paper tiger, referring that they're not doing that.
Who did I call?
I'm from Telegraph UA, Ukrainian media.
No, give us a question, not for Zelensky. Give us a question for Putin.
Why is he attacking
Because I'm speaking to him today.
Yeah, Putin.
Why is he attacking a good, hard question?
When will he end this war?
Okay, bro, we get it. You fucked up. You don't have to be like, oh my God. You know what? I respect him. I respect him for sticking to it. He's like, no, I wanted you to ask. No, I wanted you to ask a question for President Putin. Not for this guy Zelensky, for President Putin. I know the difference. I know the difference. Look at Zelensky's face, bro. Look at my man's face, bro. Mr. President, please just let me answer a question. We need more money and Patriot missile. Mr. President, I know I have to sit here and say you're doing all right.
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever asked him that question. I've been asking that question. By the way, I will tell you, though, he's going to tell you that he wants it ended as soon as he can end it. He wants it ended. He wants to end it soon. And I ask him.
I swear he's feeling himself. He thinks he's got the demeanor of a man who just aced his test after not studying at all. Okay? In his mind, he fucking nailed it. Like, he's like, yeah. I'll tell you what he'd say. I'll tell you. Because you want to know. You want to know. I'll tell you what he says. He'd say, Donald Trump is the greatest president of all time. No one has ever been like him. He's said it. It's real. It's true. He's said it before. He'd say, I wasn't afraid of Joe Biden, but I'm afraid of you. That's right. Very cool. You know what he'd say? He'd say, #1 on TikTok.
And we talk. I talk to him a lot. I talk to him a little bit less, but the relationship is very good. But I talk to President Putin a lot. He wants to end the war.
Mr. President,
a lot of people don't believe that.
Doesn't he want the status of a trade deal between Ukraine? What are President Putin's conditions for ending the war? Do you know what?
Well, they were certain conditions that were a little bit different. I think they're changing. I think they're probably getting a little bit better toward some of the things that you'd like. It's been tougher in Russia. It's been a lot tougher than it was supposed to be. I mean, in all fairness, this was supposed to be this is a war that would have never happened if I were president. Would have never happened. You'd have a full country, you know. I mean, just a shame that it happened. But no, this is something that I think Zelensky wants to do and Putin wants to do. They want to get it done. Ask the president that question. Ask him. Go ahead.
No, I don't know what I don't know what conditions Putin now wants for this peace. So I think that they are changing in any way, because at the very beginning of full-scale war, he was stronger, and now I think he is losing initiative on the battlefield. I think his army, but that's why I think that because of technologies, because it's not the question now of number of people. People, our heroic people, are very important, but now it's not the question of only number of people. First of all,
Austin Eyes made you something? Oh my God, dude. Let's be real. Nobody gives a shit. It never worked for Ukraine.
People and technologies, people with technologies. Now I think that we have better steps, technological steps further than Russia, maybe quicker, because they produce a lot of different things which are tough, strong against us, but we are quicker, and that's why I think that now initiative moved to our hands, not totally, but moved. We are trying to move this war to the sky from the battlefield. That's why we now began to control the battlefield. This is very important. It's difficult when you have less people to move them back, but we found another way how to do it, to cut their logistic for their army. It's about weapon, petrol, diesel, without massive human losses. That is the difference between us, by the way. Russia is,
he's got a lot of support. I just left a room with, where they have, mostly European, Canada, but mostly European countries. and they have great support for Ukraine, and really great support. One of the things you talk about questions for Putin, but one of the things that I talked to him about was where would you want to meet? And he said, ideally in Moscow. I said, you're not going to meet in Moscow. It just doesn't work. You can't do that. But he'll meet, and Zelensky's going to meet, and something's going to happen that's going to be positive. And I hope it's going to happen soon, because they have to, number one, lives, but number two, building your country, because it's got a tremendous.
Trump retweeting a fake photo of an attack on Iran. This is in retribution for yesterday's bombing of ships by Iran. If it happens again, it will get much worse. Trump posting a fake image from open source intel. Awesome. It's an Israeli account, by the way. Open source intel is literally an Israeli possible Mossad account. Yeah, retruthed by real American patriots now. Awesome.
Future, in my opinion. Yeah.
Where was it held and when would that happen?
I don't know.
Mr. President,
President Putin said, I would love to meet in Moscow. And I said, I don't think, I have to put myself in his position. I don't know that he'd go to Moscow. Maybe he would. Would you go to Moscow?
It's difficult. There are a lot of Ukrainian drones there. That's right. Europe.
No, it's hard. It's hard to go to Moscow.
Mr. President,
I didn't want to ask him that question.
Mr. President, how to ensure that Ukraine will not be attacked again by Russia?
What about?
How to make sure that Ukraine will not be attacked by Russia again?
Well, look, you mean in the future?
Yes.
You mean after there's an agreement? Well, we're going to work on a security guarantee and Russia respects us a lot, and we're going to work on some kind of a security. If we can make the right deal, we'll help Europe. I mean, Europe is going to be watching it, but we're going to be helping them, and we'll work on some kind of a security package that will make sure. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that if we make a deal, Russia is going to be very happy, and they're going to get on with other things. They have, by the way, as a country too, they have tremendous potential. They have tremendous land.
This is the most lucid he's seemed in a while. Yeah, because he had that Turkish eggplant puree and the braised ribs. He's been maybe eating some baklava too. Baklava, yeah, the baklava. That's why.
Valuable land that they can do things with, and they have tremendous potential. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't see. That question is, oh, they're going to attack again. I don't see it at all. I think they've had it. This has been going on.
You're a clown. You're funny. Thank you.
For almost 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought? I mean, it's a tribute because it's a bigger country, strong country, and it's an amazing tribute. Anything else?
All right, let's skip this shit.
Well, this morning, Maine Senate nominee Graham Plattner.
Oh, my God. There's no new information on Graham Plattner, right? Troy Jackson announced he's running for Maine Senate. That's cool. I know we're waiting. We're waiting for more. We're waiting for more information because Plattner's supposed to be coming out. What did Zaid say? Oh, here, let's hear what Zaid had to say. The Plattner campaign's organizing director has resigned from the Maine Democratic Party over their lack of engagement with grassroots organizers and volunteers in determining the nominee placement process. Uh-oh. Oh, I wonder what the fucking Maine Dems are going to do, honestly. I'm actually worried. What is Turkish delight called in Turkey? Great question. Greek delight? No. The way I see it, 70% of Maine Dems chose Plattner, probably not endorsing his skeletons so much as his policies. They will be most likely to turn out to defeat cons if the ME Dems make sure those policies are their policies. I think with Biden, the Dems tried to solve this by Kamala, who ran as basically Biden too. It wasn't even a bad plan if Biden won wasn't so unpopular. Whether you believe the allegations or not, problem with Plattner is his personal life is sucking up all the attention rather than the issues. That's a disaster for the race. What? Does Turkey have a gun culture like the U.S.? I'm still hung up on the handgun thing. No, we do not. Chances Plattner says fuck you and goes for it, very low. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. You're built like Babe Ruth. What the fuck? I have no idea what Babe Ruth is built like. But I just don't, I don't know. We're about to find out. We're about to find out if Graham Plattner is narcissistic to that degree. Babe Ruth is kind of fat. Oh, that's why he's saying that. Dude, it's such a weird thing that these guys are always doing nowadays. Like a lot of haters. This new thing that they do is like they'll either make me fat with AI and be like, this is what you look like. And I don't know why they keep doing that. I don't know if it's because they've hallucinated themselves into thinking that I look like that or something. Or they think like it'll get to me or something. Because like I've been pretty open about my body dysmorphia, but like it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You can't just like you have to actually hit me when I am feeling insecure. Like if there's anything that I feel insecure about, like you can't just like fucking randomly be like, you're fat when that's not the case. You know what I mean? Literally then trying to trigger dysmorphia. I know, but it doesn't work that way. I've spent. It's because Epstein hypothesized you're wearing suits because you gained weight and suits look good even if you're fat. Yes, it's that stupid. Wait, that's what it is? That's where this came from? That's so funny. I thought that there was like some other reason why they just kept. I thought it was weird because for my entire career, even when I was actually fat, no one ever said I was fat. So I always found it strange that like in the past couple of months, this has been like the number one thing that they keep saying. And I just, and now like Asmin Roach also says it too. And it's very weird. And I think it's really funny because it only makes the people that are saying it look more insane. Because it literally is like when they say like, oh, Hamas, Diddy, Piker, the dog striker, 9/11 enjoyer, stuff like that. Most people go, ew, you're gross. The fuck are you talking about? And if you turn around and you're like, hey, isn't this guy fucking fat? Dude, look at this fat piece of shit, right? Most people are going to look at you and go, the fuck are you talking about? Call Asmongold Bugs Bunny from now on. Trust me. What does that even mean? His teeth? What's wrong with his teeth? What is this? The recombobulation area. David Crowley will endorse Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez in the race for Wisconsin governor after dropping out. Yeah, I mean, we know this. Yeah, they're trying to actively and aggressively push for, they're trying to make Sarah Rodriguez happen. They're trying to make Sarah Rodriguez happen because they're worried about Francesca Hong. You got a Haley Stevens, those burps, big dog? Fuck no. Toby Durden has a new grandchild. Oh, hell yeah, Turby. Turby Durden, we're pleased to welcome the beautiful and perfect Lila Elizabeth to the world. Blessed beyond measure. Dude, I saw a comment somewhere that said Hassan actually has endorsed Toby Durden more than he has Graham Plattner, and it's kind of true. But you could basically say that about most politicians versus Toby Durden. This is his grandchild, Chudbert. Stop. Grandpa Turby. Blessed beyond measure to be grandparents for the third time. There is no greater joy in life than the birth of a child. Congratulations to Jenny and DJ. Wait, Donald John Trump? Does Toby know who you are? No, but his campaign manager does, and he fucking hates me. His campaign manager has like tweeted at me over and over again saying if Turby becomes governor, he's going to ban your entry into the state. Donald John Bam Margera is the child's full name. Governor. Turby Derby, governor of South Dakota. Kaya, what are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? What are you doing? You learned. Kaya is a little bit like Turby Derby, honestly. She's like the Turby Derby of dogs. At least she's not like the Dusty Johnson of dogs, though, because that would free travel between. I like that you took the threats that he made seriously. Free travel between states is enshrined in the Constitution, is it not? Yeah, I don't think they care. Jasmine Crockett is back.
For me, I am going to be working everywhere. The best thing that I can do for James Tallarico isn't me standing on a stage with him. It is the fact that I endorsed 5 candidates in the runoff who all happen to be black men in the state of Texas, and every single one of them won, and they're going on to November, meaning that they will pull out more black people to vote. People keep trying to say, well, Jasmine has to go and hold his hand. No, I don't. And don't worry about my math and how it works in my mind. Because the reality is that if you can give people more than one thing to vote for, then you have a better chance of getting them out to the polls. And honestly, some people just not going to be sold on certain people that are running in the state of Texas. So the best thing that I can do is take down ballot candidates who no one's ever heard of and do my best to uplift them and
Wait, why not both?
increase the voter participation in a way that we did in Texas. You see, a lot of haters got a lot of things to say about me and my race and how I ran it, but the reality is that there was a lot of racist, not a lot, it was racist. It was a racist race. It is what it is, right? But we live in America, as y'all are celebrating 250, okay? We know what this country is.
An endorsement only takes like 2 minutes. This is bullshit. Yeah, no, I know. She just doesn't. She's a sore loser. I'm sorry. Why are Democrats pretending like Summer Lee isn't ghetto and their DI meltdown is somehow a win? She absolutely is ghetto and anti-American, and worst of all, she defends Islamic terrorism and supports Hassan Piker's calls for violence. Yeah, Laura Loomer, fuck you. Wait, is she saying that Tallarico is racist? She's saying that it was racism that won Tallarico the primaries or something. I don't know. This was so awesome. God.
You disavow your friend Hassan Piker for inciting riots outside Delaney Hall last weekend?
Oh, well, actually, I think that Delaney Hall is a disgrace. Will you disavow your friend Laura Loomer, who calls black women ghetto black bitches?
She doesn't mean that.
She doesn't mean that. She doesn't mean that. What is this? Have you seen this yard? God, country, Trump, Durden. Oh, God, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. God, country, Trump, Durden, South Dakota.
Damn, this guy's good.